Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic. Now, the John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
The fact that an Eagles player has to call into sports radio to put an end to stories that didn't exist is news in 2024. It's really crazy to me. It's strange that I have to answer crazy supposition and gossip. And I got to call up and I got to talk about it and I have to clear the record that many are creating. So create your own fake stories, and then a player has to call in to say, no, let me correct the fake stories that you're propagating. Part of that bothers me. But after hearing A.J. Brown's comments over the weekend, it leaves me with a solution where this could all be avoided. And I don't understand it. I've never understood it. Why don't you just say what you want to say? Why do you do the whole thing? Remember, so now we know the social media wasn't hacked. It wasn't somebody else tweeting out stuff. It wasn't anybody else. It was you. But, I've been hacked. No, you weren't hacked. Come on. I find it strange that in 2024, this is what, by the way, our entire industry gets painted as. The electronic version, more than, and I'm not talking about the reporters that are in there on a daily basis, the beat guys who do the legwork, who do the research, who have the contacts, who dig deep, who make sure that everything they put into print, that they try to put into print, is legit. I'm talking about electronic media. Turn on a microphone and just talk. And just speculate. And just say whatever you want to say. Everybody knew the Eagles were screwed up last year. And according to A.J. Brown, the reason they were screwed up is because they just weren't that good. And he said they all knew it when they were 10-1. The Jason Kelce comments, the frustration he had in the L.A. game, the frustrations that busted up on the sidelines, even in games that they were winning. But it is strange to me that in 2024, this could all have been avoided. The cryptic tweets created the drama. Then people ran with the drama and created their own storylines, a la Craig Carton, who was wrong, and created these storylines that then have to be answered and clarified by other people and legit media. And we'll hear from Derek Gunn from Bill Colarulo's show this weekend coming up. But it leaves me with a solution, Bob, where it can all be avoided. Just don't do both sides. Don't do business this way. Both sides. This shouldn't be the way you do business.
I don't even know what the business is. Like, I hear everybody talking, the A.J. Brown story. I was like, what's the story? What is the story? What? That he acted out on a sideline? That was months ago. That he's not happy, that he tweeted something? Is that really a story? That somebody's putting out there, should they trade him for something and all this stuff? What's the story? I really don't know. Like, I hear you. Like, it's a talking point. But, like, in your opening words, you said it's a story, and it kind of meant, and I'm not going against what you're saying. I'm saying, and it is, because everybody's talking about it, and a columnist wrote about it today.
Well, he obviously was airing some disgruntlement.
Yeah, like, what?
Instead of just...
Why did he have to say... I just don't even know what the story was that A.J. Brown had to talk to anybody. What was the story? Yeah, the team was crap. Everybody knows it. The coaches were crap. The players were crap. He says both. Like, why did... What? Because there was rumors going around?
Well, he was the one who was helping to propagate this whole thing. Remember? I didn't really say anything. My account was hacked. I didn't really say anything.
I don't even know what he said on the tweet that was hacked.
His whole thing of being the people are trying to run you out of town, that kind of mentality. He's not being... This town loves A.J. Brown. I don't like, it's the biggest false falsehood of the entire story. A.J. Brown is beloved in that building. The fans that walk into that building, nobody's running him out of town. Nobody's trying to run him out of town. A faceless person on Twitter, Eagles fan 2082, puts out a tweet and says, trade his ass, and people react to it. It's a weird thing. Players get sensitive to it. This is all. If A.J. Brown said this thing on, hey, there's nothing going on between me and Jalen. Nothing going on. There is nothing going on with this team. We just weren't good enough. We sucked. We were terrible down the stretch.
Well, see, herein lies the problem.
Okay.
In what you just said.
All right.
At first, you said he shouldn't say anything. He shouldn't have said anything. And then it goes on to he should have just said that everything's okay. And I'm not saying that you're wrong in what you're saying. You're exactly right. This is where everything gets like if they don't talk, people get mad at it. If they do talk, people get mad at it. If they social mediaize, and throw things out there, people get pissed off. I didn't think there was anything for him to answer to. Like people, he's got to talk. He's got to. Well, about what? I didn't understand. Were the tweets that he threw out there, I guess, a little
cryptic? They were cryptic.
Okay.
It's like just say what you mean,
or don't say anything.
Or don't say anything, right? If
so,
he doesn't say anything, then nothing is said.
Right.
Then nobody thinks A.J. Brown's disgruntled. Nobody thinks A.J. Brown's pissed off.
What was, and I'm being honest, what was the tweets that made him say, did he say?
About the what people are saying about you, that this is, stuff like this is, it's fake. It's, that people talked about lies, wanting to be traded. I don't like Philly. There's problems with me and Jalen, things like that. It's like you add to the drama by propagating it. Just don't ignore it. It's one or the other. Either say it or don't say anything. I agree 100% what you just said. Don't say anything. Don't use Twitter and Instagram as a cryptic little thing. And then when you get pushback on it, well, I didn't tweet it. Somebody must have hacked my account, which now there was issues that he had going on that he was pissed. He was pissed about what people were saying. And I admire him clearing the air, but I also don't admire the fact that our industry gets painted as a whole, that this is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
That pisses me off.
Well, that was the rant
that pissed me off in a big way.
That was the rant that I had a couple weeks ago. What are you talking about here? But look, it's the world. We're all lumped into it now, right? Anybody can get on social media and say stupid-ass things, whether you're at a radio station or whether you're, a podcaster, consider yourself whatever you are. Is there a standard that anybody holds themselves up to anymore? I shouldn't say anybody. That a lot of people hold themselves up to anymore. I don't know. Like Mike Sealski has a column today about what Brown said and where it stands as media, because apparently Brown said something about the media.
Right.
And like me, Sealski's like, look, it's anybody that just gets on a microphone or gets behind a keyboard isn't media. But
correct.
We're not going to. It doesn't matter. We're not going to define that out anymore. I came to that conclusion this weekend. We're just going to have to be the people that we are. And for like the Cartons of the world making crap up and thinking you're something, that's what he does. For others at other places that they might want to throw things out there as far as trades and this and that and rumors and all that. If you can live with yourself doing that, you go ahead. I don't think we're that here. I honestly don't. It's one of the reasons I love working here. We don't have hot take artists. We don't. We you can disagree with our opinions and all of those things, but I think generally most of us are from the heart of what we feel, and that's what we're going to run with. A basis of truth is what I always say about myself and how I feel about most people here. Our basis of truth in reacting to what's going on.
Now, this weekend, Bill Colarulo had an interview with Derek Gunn on Saturday morning. Really good interview. I want you to hear something. I'll sprinkle some of this in this morning. And one of the things that was made clear was the relationship with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts.
I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I think A.J. is a very passionate player, wants the best out of everybody. And like any receiver, I chuckled throughout the season when people were making so much about A.J. Brown, animated demeanor on the sideline. Name a top receiver that doesn't get animated when they don't get the ball, when things are going bad. A.J. wanted the team to be better. He could see that things were discombobulated, but it was taken in a whole different context and taken in a whole different direction. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't like Jalen Hurts. The man is a competitor. He's trying to motivate people to play, plain and simple.
And it's clear that A.J. Brown is a guy who considers himself, I'm going to hold other people accountable. To how hard I work, to how hard I want to win, I'm going to hold other people accountable.
Yeah, and okay, is that something that I would like if I was a teammate? I don't know. I hold myself accountable more than anybody, so I don't need you to hold me accountable, maybe. But we talked about this when he had the sideline antics and all. I love that. I don't care. I loved it as a coach. I loved it as a player. You know what it shows me? It shows me somebody cares. It shows me somebody's like into this game. And once
you said that
I said it on the air
all the time when it would come up.
Absolutely.
You kept saying
I don't mind a guy like that, man. He cares. He wants to win. He wants the ball because when he gets the ball, they're a better team. I don't mind that at all. Don't at all.
Our 6 a.m. hour sponsor is Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White is here for the pro. Appreciate the folks from Bradford White being a part of the John Kincade Show. There is one thing, though, that I do take issue with our, and I will take issue with even our own, because we have disagreements. I heard this weekend over and over on the station the opinion that, and there are people trying to run A.J. Brown out of town. Who? Who's trying to run A.J. Brown out of town? Who? Faceless people on Twitter that have Twitter accounts? What columnist? What talk show host? Seriously, who is trying to run A.J. Brown out of town? Nobody. Like, we have to deal, I think we got to deal with stories that are legit, that are real. Nobody. Like, there are days where we've had media members put their name on it and literally be like, get rid of this guy, trade him, write a column, have a talk show, be all about it. I don't know anybody in this town who's trying to run A.J. Brown out of town. So I don't give a damn what some faceless someone on Twitter is saying. They don't matter. Don't give, Eagles, Birdman 22-28 a voice. Because you don't know. What is it, one of his 5 accounts that he sits there and just tries to create discord? Gunner, it's wild. This is not the industry that I started in. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think the majority of quote-unquote media in the city is trying to run A.J. Brown out of town, but I have seen some things, and I know as much as the faceless people on Twitter don't matter to us, when you're that person being attacked and you're reading that, I've gotten it, and I talk on the weekends for an hour every weekend, right? I've gotten hate tweets. If I'm A.J. Brown, someone to that magnitude, and I'm reading that on my timeline, and don't get me wrong, he has to go out of his way to find the negative, because that is what he's doing. But if you're reading that all day, yeah, it's a faceless guy on Twitter, but if you're reading that all day nonstop, it's going to start to eat at your soul a little bit, right?
You're new to this.
Yeah.
Does it bother you? Does it grate at you?
Yeah, it's annoying,
really?
Right? Because when A.J. Brown's talking about the media this, the media that, I don't necessarily think it's the whole media everywhere you go. I think it's what he's looking for. Unfortunately, he's trying to find that. He's going out of his way to find it. Maybe not, but I don't think that's us necessarily as the media. I think a lot of us like A.J. Brown. Most of us love A.J. Brown. I wear his jersey on Sundays. So what are we talking about?
So do I.
I got to tell you, what keeps ringing in my ear is an old a sports editor that I had that was considered the best in the country, Mike Rathett, back in his days at the Daily News. I've thought of this all weekend. If I were to walk into his office and say, yeah, this A.J. Brown stuff, I could hear him say over and over after I explained it, what's the story? What's the story? Well, a guy on social media, what's the story? Is there a story here? I don't know that there is one. I really don't. Like, he's responding to something that wasn't really there, that is falsified by people saying something that wasn't really said. There is no story. It's reaction to stupidity, and I felt the need to react. Honest to God, I don't know what the story is. It's a talking point, but is there a story here?
If you want to chime in on this, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. At 610-632-0975, you want to get in with us early this morning. A strange story as this continues to unfold. We'll hear more from Derek Gunn with Bill Colarulo over the weekend, too. There's some really interesting things I want you to hear. Plus, Sixers with a disappointing day after a really good Friday night, and the Flyers with 2 heartbreakers. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A weekend to forget. I'm Brendan Gunn, and this update is brought to you by
97.5thefanatic.com.
You know, Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps, Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com. Get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. So the A.J. Brown story, or as Bob points out, it makes logical sense. Or non-story. Like it does, as strange as it sounds, it makes logical sense. That you could say non-story. Story, non-story.
It's like gossiping. It's like seventh grade girl gossiping at the Catholic school I went to. You know, it's blah, 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 but there's no substance. There's nothing to, like, no, I just kind of came away. I'm trying to wrap my head around, okay, if you want to dive into that he was screaming on the sidelines and he doesn't want to be here, man, that's a stretch. That he should be traded for somebody, really? That he doesn't have a relationship with the quarterback? Did you talk to the quarterback, the Eagles, to him about it? You know, it's just like the Derek Guns of the world. This kind of stuff makes them cringe.
Let's see what Scott has to say. Scott, you're batting leadoff today. Good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Good morning, fellas. Happy, was it Monday? Happy Monday?
Yeah, it's Monday. How you doing, buddy?
So I want to start with a quote that I think I've seen a million times of Denzel, where he says, nobody cares about the truth when a lie is more entertaining, and that the media's job is to tell the truth, but it's always about being first, not honest. And sometimes, you know, everyone's podcasting now. Everyone wants to write an article. Everything's about clicks. And a lot of these, networks and stations, they're so focused on getting the views and getting the clicks that they just post a headline.
I'm going to take issue with you right off the bat. Now, we'll keep the conversation going, but I'm going to take issue with you. You said today in the media, do you consider us media?
I do. And the media,
okay.
To Bob's point, the media is so broad now because everyone has, Draymond Green calls it the new media. Everyone wants to podcast. Every player in the world has a podcast now. It's amazing.
Well, the thing is,
How
players
playing and podcasting.
Here, the thing is, though, players having a podcast is one thing. Someone having a podcast I had someone the other day, a podcaster guy is a Phillies podcast, and he's literally arguing with me that Derek Gunn is not around the Eagles locker room. And I'm like, dude, you've never been in the Eagles locker room. You have no idea what you're talking about. And he has a podcast, but he's got a podcast, so people are like, his voice is credible. They're not in the clubhouse. They're not around the vast majority of them. They're just fans with opinions, which I think is great, by the way. I like podcasting. I think it's awesome for people to do it. But when they act like they're media members, that's different. And I don't consider us journalists. I differ with you. Like, I consider what we do entertainment, but I always have.
So my question to you next is, how many followers? Because everything's about reputation and image, and his image is he's allowed to have an opinion about how he's portrayed in the world.
Oh, no, he is. Yeah, he is.
So, and again, you guys are different. You guys don't follow the clickbait. I listen to your show every day. It's not about the clicks and the views and saying outlandish things to get people to listen, but a lot of shows and a lot of stations and a lot of articles the national media, our First Take, some of the stuff you hear on these things are just insane. And I just think if I was a player, man, I would at some point get fed up because it's a new world and everyone has an opinion, and you would get tired of it. Like I said, Bob hit on it. I just want to be good. I want to play. Jamar Chase said this season, I'm always open. Didn't get called a diva. The next game, he had 350 yards. But in Philly, it's if you say anything good or bad, they're going to take it and run with it. And you see it, one bad season from Hurts, they start writing hit pieces about whether or not he's even a guy, and it's Carson Wentz all over again. It's have a little grace,
and the funny thing is,
good.
Thanks, Scott. I like that, buddy.
The funny thing, Scott, very good call. Funny thing is, what are we doing right now? We're talking about it, right? So, Scott talks about people with clickbaits and just say things because they want people to talk about it, whether they believe it or not, or if it's true or not. Well, they're doing their job because we're talking about it. It's like what I said about the guy in New York saying what he said last week. He got what he wanted. The boss has said, hey, very good, man. They're talking about you all over the country. That's awesome. So, it's that, it's the yin and the yang of it. Media, journalism, that's to me is separate, but it's starting to, kind of just all climb together of what people's belief, who is what.
I enjoy listening to podcasts. Gunner, I don't know if you do, like, if you go on some of the fan podcasts and everything.
Not necessarily
out
like
there.
fan podcasts. I don't say I would do that, but I go out of my way to listen to, I guess, respected media members' podcasts.
Right.
Like I listen to a Jeff McClain podcast. I go somewhere to get news. I'm not just going to waste my time with a fan podcast.
See, I enjoy it. I enjoy bouncing around some of the podcasts and listening to them until I hear, well, there's the stuff about the locker room or stuff about the thing, and I'm going, dude, I actually will go in the locker room a few times a season, definitely, and will like go, but I can't, you don't hear me come in and go, let me tell you about what's going on in the locker room, because I don't freaking know. I'm not there. I'm not educated enough to do it, and I'll hear fan podcasts talking about what's going on in the locker room, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, okay, this is where it goes over the line from, hey, I'm a fan with a podcast, and it's awesome, and I love the team, to I feel like I'm a reporter.
Well, that's always going to be a talking point, what's going on in the locker room. We just saw it with the Sixers when they traded Pat Bev. Everyone was saying it was bad for the locker room. I don't know. I feel like fans and us on the outside of the locker room, per se, we never know what's going on, right? But we have the general idea of, oh, this guy looks like a leader, so he has to be good for the locker room.
I asked Bob on, like, with Sixer stuff. I'll say to Bob, so, you know what? Well, you were down there. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on around the team? I never, when he goes to a game, I never fail to say, so, well, what was it like? What's the mood like? How's it going? Because I don't know it. I don't know it. And more importantly, unless you're there on a daily basis, Bob, I don't think you really have a pulse of what's going on in the locker room. Unless you're one of the beat guys who understands, because you could catch a guy on a bad day. You could catch a locker room on a bad day.
Sure.
You could catch, when you see it consistently, then you have an informed opinion about what's going on. And I know I flat out do not have that. I do not access it enough to feel like I would share that with the audience.
Key words, informed opinion. I'm not saying, like, you know, like you love listening to podcasts and hearing that. Like, we that's what we do. We talk sports. We do it for 4 hours a day, but we do it for 10 other hours a day with our friends, with, you know, other people and
Sure.
all that stuff. But you said informed. You can have an opinion and be a podcaster and all that stuff. They might not be informed the way you were just talking about, which is going in and talking to coaches or talking to players or whatever. Okay, that's okay. If you're open and honest about it, like, look, this is just my opinion. I don't.
That's different, right?
Okay, fine. So, but the lumping in of both, you know, guys that are there talking to players and coaches, guys that are sitting around writing on their podcasts or broadcasting their podcasts that don't. That's okay. There's a place for everything, but combining the two together and thinking they're the same, which I think is the gist of this talk, that's not it.
Hey, this weekend, Bill Colarulo caught up with Derek Gunn, who obviously had a lot of tongues wagging last week with his reporting on what was going on around the Eagles. And one of the questions he wanted to address was sort of the uproar over Big Dom's role in controlling Nick Sirianni.
Big Dom is very good at settling Nick down. Nick is very animated, emotional, passionate, just like any head coach. Every team in the National Football League has a guy who stays next to the head coach, but because of this situation, it was more magnified. You know, Dom wasn't there, and of course, nobody was really there to help control Nick Sirianni's emotions, and at times they got out of control, getting in players' faces, maybe getting in coaches' faces a little bit too much, to the point where it was a distraction on the sideline. That, you know, and that happened. Nick has said on the platform a couple of times in front of the media he needs to do a better job of controlling his emotions. That's okay. You know, at least he admitted it. You know, but Big Dom does play a significant impact in terms of calming Nick Sirianni at strategic moments of game. It's that simple.
That's cool. The only part I take issue with is where Derek Gunn says he's emotional, like every other NFL coach. Nonsense. I've never seen. Give me the other NFL coaches who search out the camera to mug at the cameras or are jumping up on the stands to mock opposing fan bases. That or getting into verbal confrontations with opposing fans on the way out of a building, feeling like Billy Big Balls because you won a game. That's ridiculous. No, there are not. I do not know of any other NFL coach who conducts himself like this. By the way, past or present. Have there been isolated incidents with a coach? Sure. Have there been numerous incidents with one guy? I think Nick Sirianni stands alone. I think his behavior stands out like a sore thumb to me compared to other coaches.
I can't be a hypocrite and say I don't mind if players are on the sidelines going, ape bleep crazy and stuff like that, and then say I don't want the coach to do it. It sounds hypocritical, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, that's your job. Your job is to be emotional, maybe, but to curtail it because you're there to teach. You're there to adjust. You're there to game plan while the game is going on. Can you do that if you're screaming and hollering at officials and other coaches and all that all the time? No, I find it I find it so surprising that this is being brought up, that he has to be curtailed on the sideline. Like, whoa. Get back to coaching. Get back to that's your job. Like, and I look at it as a coach as being, yeah, I could sit there and scream and holler. I told you this the other day. There's a local coach who I'm a favorite, who's one of my favorites, who will cover his mouth and say things that you don't want any one of your kids to hear, and then at the same time, half a second later, turn to his team and say, all right, now listen, here's what we got to do. Boom, 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 boom. Like, that's what a coach is. Yes, a coach is going to be emotional. They have to be. They invest so much time and energy into trying to get the product out there right, and then maybe something goes wrong or whatever. I don't mind emotions, but not to the point of where you have to be curtailed as a head coach by somebody standing there next to you. That baffles me.
There's a difference between an unbecoming behavior or a get-back guy. And Sean McVay's got one, a get-back guy, because Sean will want to ride the officials a little bit too much. He's got his get-back guy. But he's not creating incidents on the sidelines. He's not getting into it with fans. He's not looking for the Fox cameras to do a little face mugging. It's just, to me, it's just amateurish.
I don't have a problem with him mean mugging the camera or even yelling at the Kansas City fans walking off. I'm with Bob. I'm like, if you can't control your emotions, that's where I have the problem. What if Travis Kelce was on the Eagles in the Super Bowl and he bumped in and pushed Nick Sirianni? Is Nick Sirianni going to go right back at him? Or is he going to calm himself like an Andy Reid and go out there and trust his player to calm down and go out there and perform in the second half? Like, Nick Sirianni would probably yell right back at him and be a whole fiasco on the sideline. I can't have that. But as far as the mean,
remember he got into it with Devontae Smith.
Yeah, Devontae Smith doesn't say anything ever. Like, he's such a quiet, nice kid. How are you going to get into it with him? Like, that's where I can't have. That's where I draw the line. Like, control yourself on the sideline.
So, you to me, a player looks at a coach for what? You look at a coach for guidance. You look at a coach. You're out there. This is the reason I don't mind players showing emotions. They're reacting. They're out there reacting on the fly, running as hard as they can and seeing something and having to adjust their bodies, all that. A coach is adjusting mentally. If I see him losing it mentally on the sidelines, where is he? Like, where is he? It's the equivalent of a player jogging a route instead of running as hard as he can. Like, what are you doing? I need you to be here with this team right now. That he needs somebody to calm him down and get him back on track during a 60-minute game? Wow. I think this guy, Dom, I don't know him. I don't think I've ever even met him. But like I told you, the story I read about him, he seems to just be the glue of everything there. And the players love and respect him and all that. I'm shocked that part of his job entails calming down the coach during game days.
Now, whether Nick Sirianni should have been back or not was a big discussion point. And Derek Gunn told Bill Colarulo, well, I think Howie and Jeff Lurie have a handle on it.
The Eagles brought him back for a reason, okay? They analyzed all this stuff. If they didn't think Nick Sirianni was the guy to help turn this thing around, they wouldn't have brought him back, plain and simple. Look at how quickly they got rid of a Chip Kelly. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are not shy about making snap decisions if needed to be made. But they made a decision they felt after talking over endless hours about the direction of the team, that Nick Sirianni was the guy to come back.
And it tells me, Bob, that the exit interviews went well for Nick Sirianni. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because maybe they like players want him because he's a player's coach. He runs a Club Med training camp. They practice less in pads than any team in the NFL, more in shells. Maybe they like that, so they're not going to trash the guy because they don't want Harry Hardass being hired to come in here and change what they're comfortable with. I don't know. But
yeah,
they know
we don't know.
But they know him better than I do. So obviously, to me, the exit interviews went well. They heard enough positive things that they decided to give it another shot.
At the professional level, I've run into more athletes that want to do the work than not do the work. Let's just go more recent. Doc Rivers loved to give guys days off, and for those of you out there, I get alerts about what time the practice is the next day as soon as games are over. With Doc Rivers, it was off, 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 off. With Nick Nurse, it's practice, 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 practice. Just from my dealings with players through the years, they want to work. That's what they're there for. They want to get better. I don't know if they think that their product is better because they're in shells sometimes and all that. Well, then they're being open and honest. But I don't think players lean towards, oh man, this is easy, so that's cool. No, I think they lean more towards if it's better for the team not to practice hard. Okay.
It's good that finally, though, some of this stuff can go by the wayside. That we don't have to deal with it anymore. But I hold this entire fiasco, and I do consider it a fiasco, that a player has to call sports radio to clarify crap. I think it's like, to me. But I do believe he contributed to creating the illusion of the crap. With the whole cryptic, stay off social media if you can't handle it. And by the way, I would tell everybody, go read Mike Sealski's piece from December. Mike Sealski wrote a piece about A.J. Brown and his problems with social media. But obviously, he acknowledges it's a problem and won't do anything about it. Stay the hell off it. Come on, A.J., this town loves you, and you're a spectacular athlete. You're incredible. And you acknowledge that this is something that has screwed you up before and caused you angst and caused you problems. Stay the hell off it. At some point, you can do it.
It's easier said than done, though. I mean, we're talking about a kid that's 25 years old, right? He's been on social media longer than he hasn't been in his lifetime.
Did you just say kid?
Yeah, I mean, he's younger than me, so he's a kid. But
my God,
my point remains. If you're on social media the majority of your life, it's not as easy as turning it off.
And
it might be easier for you guys, but it's not that easy for young people.
And you acknowledge that it's a problem for you. This is a detriment to me. He's literally been interviewed about it and talked about it. So then don't let it be a story a month later that you're feeding into the same thing again. You got to stop. You acknowledge it's a problem, then do something to help yourself so it's not a problem anymore.
I don't know. My 25-year-old would probably say he's on social media too much. That doesn't mean I'm going to tell him, shut it down, knock it off, cut it out. Is it
affecting his job? Is it affecting his mental state?
I don't know.
Is it affecting his... Well, if it is, he should stay off it.
Well, I mean, he's not on the platform that an A.J. Brown is either, where one thing he says is going to get, scrutinized by a million people because of what he said in the profession that he has. I'm with the do we all wish everybody would be better on social media? Absolutely. I'm with Brendan a little bit. Like, that's hard to tell. I have a 25-year-old. I couldn't imagine telling him, no, stay off social media.
It'd be like this, though. If you had a 25-year-old who can drink responsibly, and you have a 25-year-old who can't drink responsibly, your advice to them is different. There's a difference. Yeah, it's hard to put down alcohol if you have problems with alcohol. If you can drink responsibly, you can do it, and you have no problems with it. I look at it the same way. It's an addiction. Social media is an addiction. I don't know how many times my wife and I will go out to eat, and we will look at couples, and they will be at a breakfast, and they're sitting there. They're each on their phones. They're out to eat. It's like communication time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the world we live in now.
And it's just, yeah, but it's a world you choose to live in if you do it that way.
Well, there's different degrees of it. Like you like to respond to people, strangers, about what they say things, and you like to go back out. Like, I don't do that. I think it's a waste of time. For me, because that's how I'm built. You're built differently. A.J. Brown's built differently than my 25-year-old son. It's addiction, problem. I don't know. Social media is a platform that people like to use. He likes to use it, whether he does it smartly or not. Yeah, okay. Comparing it to like alcoholism, I don't know.
Comparing it to I think it's an addiction.
Well, everybody's addicted then.
Well, no, it depends on how it affects you.
Like I said, like, you'll sit during a game and you'll answer people. Like, I couldn't do that. So should I look at you that you're addicted to it?
No, because it doesn't affect me negatively. It's not affecting
when you find yourself answering people that you don't even know and having a reason to respond to them, like, I'm not saying I'm right. I find that, I wouldn't do that, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong for doing it.
I appreciate that someone's engaging.
But no,
that's the
I'm
way I
not
look
talking
at it.
about it. I'm talking about somebody's put something out there that you don't know on a topic, and you respond to it.
Yeah, and I usually try to say something like along the lines of, if it's somebody trying to troll, I'll do the old thanks for listening. I'll do the, well, thanks for listening.
No, I'm not talking about our station. I'm just talking like a general subject.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with an exchange of ideas. But if it sets you off and it creates a negative environment for you, as AJ has acknowledged in print, in interviews, then that's different. If you're obsessing on it, that's a problem. And he's acknowledged that. You want to jump in, 610-632-0975. Doc Rivers had something to say before his team came in and kicked the Sixers' butts. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Doc Rivers returns to Philly. I'm Brendan Gunn, and this update is brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
Arlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
No Pat Egan today. Feel better, Pat. Brendan Gunn in the Egan chair. We'll be with you till 10 o'clock today. Then Andrew Salchunas makes his triumphant return from vacation.
Nice.
And then the best show ever here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Plus, we will have you covered at night after the best show ever with specials this week on the NFL training combine out there at Indianapolis, which will be really, really good. Our own Bill Colarulo will be part of it. Connor and Tom will be, anchoring it from here. And also we'll check in with Andrew DeCecco on that show, live from the Scouting Combine. And Andrew will join us in depth later on Thursday this week. So a great chance to be able to catch up on everything. You want to know what's going on in the Combine in depth? Be tuned in. We'll give you all that information in the course of the week. Ike's on the line. Ike, good morning. You're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good to hear from you, man.
All right. So here's my thing. I'm so happy AJ called because some people need to be checked, and it ain't everybody need, obviously. But let's be honest. Like people, you trying to put it on like far out there podcasters, but no, there's like media, and I consider y'all and people on the radio as media because if you get a press pass, you're media to me. I'm sorry,
okay.
Whichever kind of media you want to consider.
And that's fair.
Media.
And that's fair.
And it's people in the paper who say outrageous things because they cross over onto the radio and stuff like that as well. And he felt like he wanted to defend himself. And let's be honest. I know a lot of times I hear you say, John, about rabbit ears and hearing everything. But we all have rabbit ears, even the media and the fans, because anytime any little thing is said about the Philadelphia fans, it's always a big kerfuffle. Or if something happens with other
good word
with other fans, we'd be like, if that was Philadelphia fans, we'd be hearing about.
You know what's funny is Ike,
same thing as everybody else.
You're calling me out, and you're right because of the fact that in one regard, because of the fact that I believe that the "nobody likes us, we don't care" is the biggest lie ever told.
100%.
It's ridiculous. We hear everything, So I mean, I get you on that, and I get you on. But the thing is, though, here, how about this? I sit for an Eagles game in the press box. I sit next to guys like Andrew DeCecco from Inside the Birds, Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports, and in front of me, I've got John Clark. I look down, and there will be, media members like a Mike Sealski and them. They are so much more connected on a daily basis to what's going on in that locker room and around that team than I am. I look down and I see, I'll see a Zach Berman. I'll see those guys. So I put different levels on media.
I do.
You know what I mean?
Me too. But the only thing I say is, hey, I can understand when he say stuff or anybody say stuff. I never look at it as it's everybody that they're addressing, because everybody knows everybody's style. Everybody knows what your roles is on the joint. Like Pat do all the stuff out of the box. You come up with a lot of the ideas and guide the show. And Bob, he like the person who sit there and check everything and who sit there and tell you like, hey, give you the little insight for being with the teams more. So when like AJ say that, I got my ideas of people who I agree with and with, and I got my ideas of people who I don't think that falls into.
I think that's fair, Ike. I think that's fair, Ike.
I love your use of the word kerfuffle, Ike. You're the man. that gave me a chuckle today. I like that. But Ike, I agree with him. He brings up a good point. So A.J. Brown didn't come out and say, hey, you, John Doe, I'm talking to you. He didn't do that, which is fine. He lumped it into media. And why do you guys do this? And why is somebody proposing a trade? And why is this, that, whatever? Ike's right. Okay, he came out and wanted to say, like, look, man, I don't agree with what you guys do. Okay, fair. A lot of people don't agree with what he put on Twitter, yourself included, John, like him, putting out there whatever
like
he did.
Stuff. I'm just like, come on, that to me sounds like the seventh grade kid stuff.
Yeah, so, you're a media member and you hear him speak of it. I didn't take it personally, even though I'm in the media. I didn't take it personally because I know I didn't have anything to do with that. So the lumping is going to happen. Knowing who you are as part of a media is all you can do. And if you're comfortable with how you do things and the honest way that you approach things, if you do so, and you believe in what you say, well, then you shouldn't have any problems.
7 a.m. hour is brought to you by the all-new BetParks app, and I say all new because it's constantly changing. There's all kinds of new ways for you to get involved. Sportsbook and casino in a sleek, easy-to-use app. Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, and Maryland. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I want to use kerfuffle more in my life.
That is true.
I got to thank Ike for that.
Good job, Ike.
I like the kerfuffle.
Nice work. By the way, it is an opposing radio station, but I think Ike did a really good job of navigating that situation on the air. By the way, Ike Reese, a guy I have a lot of respect for, and I do admire. Another issue. So yesterday, Doc Rivers came back to Philadelphia, and Doc Rivers, I don't know if I would. Is it fair to say, Bob, a sort of unpopular figure in Philadelphia? Doc Rivers, is that a bad way? I don't want to portray the argument falsely. Sort of unpopular.
Yeah, look, as we talked about before, he was brought in here to take them to a different level.
Correct.
It didn't happen. Does he get all the blame? He doesn't think so. Do the fans blame him only? No, but his handling of where blame goes hasn't been good. And I think that is what upped the fans' reaction to him this weekend. And he didn't do anything to endear himself more to the fans by calling out Joel Embiid, saying he needed the ball more, late in the game.
Well, let's hear what he had to say before the game yesterday, and then we'll react to it.
I don't know. I honestly haven't thought about it much since. I mean, maybe they were better. Could that be a possibility? That's probably why you picked them, right? So that's one reason. I thought Game 6 was our game. I didn't think Joel got the ball enough. And trust me, it was for him to get it, and he didn't get it. I don't know how healthy he was, so. But as I've told you guys 100 times, you put yourself in those positions, and winning is hard, and you're going to win some of them, you're not going to win some of them, and you just keep going. I think that's the answer.
For him to get it, Bob, explain how you believe Doc Rivers meant that comment. When
he called plays for Joel to get it, and the players didn't execute.
I believe him.
I think that's what he believes.
I believe it.
I'm sorry. If I have a 7'2", 280-pound guy on my team who's the MVP of the league, go get the damn basketball. I can call a play if it breaks down. I think he should know to go get the basketball, and that's on the coach if he doesn't know to go get the basketball. I mean, come on. What are we talking about here?
I remember after that series, Shaq, Charles, others just saying, Joel Embiid has to demand the damn ball. It's a Game 6. You're at home. You have a chance to close out the Celtics. And they literally turtled. And it wasn't just Embiid. It was James Harden. There's no way Doc Rivers was drawing up plays for DeAnthony Melton with the game on the line. No way. And you know that. But fans, it's easier to blame Doc Rivers, who's gone, than to acknowledge that James Harden, who's gone, and Joel Embiid came up super small. And then I don't even want to talk about Game 7. Because if you're putting Game 7 on Doc, and you watch the performances of Joel Embiid and James Harden, you are absolutely so full of it, your eyes are brown. If you're putting Game 7 on Doc, and I think if you're putting the last 5 minutes on Doc at Game 6, if you're a great player, you think, and again, the LeBrons, the Kobes, the Shaqs, the Jordans, you're telling me the Lucas, whoever it is, you're telling me they don't demand the ball? They're not making things. There was plenty of time to change direction. To me, it's so ridiculous. It's easier to blame Doc Rivers than to say, you know what? Embiid did come up really small. Tiny in the last 5 minutes of that game. And I think that's one of those things that, Bob, when you talk about, I don't believe for a second that the plays weren't designed and things weren't done to try to get Joel Embiid, that wasn't the idea. Let's get Joel the basketball, especially how he was getting to the line and scoring from the line, stopping the clock and scoring the free throws and things like that.
It was 83-81 with 5:57 to go. Sixers were up. For the rest of the game, the rest of the 6 minutes of the game, Joel Embiid took 2 shots. James Harden took 3, and they went a combined 0 for 5. There was some desperation threes from Melton in there. There was a turnover by Harden in there. Look at the way the offense was run this year when Joel Embiid is healthy, right? If he's not bringing the ball up the floor, he's the first one to get the pass in the half court. He comes up to the top of the key, holds this guy on his back, gets the ball, and the offense flows through him. You can run an offense all you want all year long, and it's a guard-heavy offense that Doc Rivers runs, and everything goes through the guards. And I don't care if I'm Joel Embiid. Yeah, I'm coming up to the top of the key and saying, Harden, give me the damn ball.
Yes.
And, yeah.
And you would see, and by the way, I guarantee you in your time in the NBA, and anybody even as a big NBA fan, has seen times where players have demanded the ball. You can see it on the court.
Yeah.
The broadcasters will bring it up. Oh, he wants that ball, and he's saying, get it to me, get it to me. Joel didn't do that.
No, in that game, he certainly didn't. No. And then
everything was on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, every single thing was on the line.
And then in Game 7, they jump out to a lead in the first quarter. Look pretty decent. Tobias Harris looks decent. And then they get blitzed in the third quarter. It was like, what was it, like 35-11 or something?
Terrible.
Something crazy. And then, people started wondering, did the players quit? Because they certainly didn't have a lot of get up and go.
How do you quit in the second quarter of a game?
That was the third. Yeah, that was the third.
Yeah, it was more the third.
I hate to say that word quit,
Exactly.
but sometimes things get so against you and the ball starts snowballing where it's going in for them every time and you're not getting a thing. It's human nature. Frustration sets in. It's hard to overcome that. You're down. Next thing you know, you're down 18, 20, 24. And it's like, what am I doing here? You're running in quicksand.
What did you see yesterday?
This isn't good right now. And it's funny when you look at a team. I compared the Flyers and the Sixers this weekend. So you're kind of looking for identity. Now, I went to the Flyers game on Saturday, and the first thing you notice, Konechny's not suited up. And you're like, that's tough against a Rangers team. In a chippy game where he's, like, just so needed. But the Flyers have an identity. Like, they play hard. They don't quit. They might not have as much talent as the other team, but they're going to be there somehow, some way. Then you look at the Sixers without Embiid. They're not there talent-wise with other teams. I'm not saying that they quit, but they just don't have it to stay in games. They don't. And Tobias Harris hasn't been great. In his last 7 games, he's averaging 13 points a game.
That's ungodly.
Buddy Hield in his last 3 games hasn't gotten past 15 points. Maxi's trying to carry this team offensively, but like we talked about before, it's hard for a guy at that position to do at his age, at his stature. Like it's just hard for someone like him to carry a team. And then, you look at the Paul Reed situation where somebody tweeted me this weekend and said that they were pissed at me because I pointed out how bad he was defensively. They're like, now I can't stop watching it. It's horrible. He just doesn't know when to double team and when not to leave his man and when to leave his man. And then you have a backup in Mo Bamba, who last week I was so frustrated with Paul Reed. I was like, maybe he should get more playing time. He's not doing any better either. They're not shooting well from 3. Their defense, my God, can they give up more layups and dunks? It's unbelievable how easy it is. And yesterday, I thought the dagger was right before halftime. Sixers get a nice basket there, and Milwaukee inbounds the ball, throws it the length of the court, and gets a layup with 0.1 second to go.
What a pass. That was an amazing pass.
So, the Sixers can't rebound. They don't get back on defense well. They're not really good defensively. So what does that tell you? All right, I guess they got to try to outscore other teams. Well, they can't do that with a guard-heavy offense. They just can't. So they're in a tough spot right now, and all it did was reassure me something that I hate saying. I think they're going to be hovering around that play-in tournament. I really do.
Okay, there's a comment you made that came up in my group text this weekend with my friends as we debate stuff. You said at Maxey at his age. 4 years, right? This is 4 years, right?
3 years with Doc, and now it's 4th, yeah.
This is 4th. I mean,
if you're going to be a guard.
At 4 years, we shouldn't,
He can't carry a team right now, no.
No,
A guard
okay.
like that, a outside scoring guard, who drives to the basket, he's very much freewheeling. That's hard. Guards that can carry teams, you got to talk like the Dame Lillards, the
Yes.
Steph Currys, guys that know how and when to do it. He's just not there yet. He'll score you points, and that's great. He can't carry a team.
Is he always going to be this player defensively? Because I don't think defensively, and I'm a huge Maxey fan, but watching him play, but his defense is not adequate. It's not even adequate.
Yeah, I'd rather have a guy like that than a guy that can't score.
Okay.
Because you can look, he's a really good athlete. He's an NBA player. He has quickness. He has speed. Give me some time with him to say, like, all right, look, we got to ramp up this defense. Let's do it. Yeah, I think he could do it that easily.
I've been told before that it's do you want him using his energy when he's a scorer like that? Do you want him using his energy on the defensive end of the court because it will affect his offensive end of the court?
Crap
You don't
on
buy-
that.
you don't believe in that? No,
never,
okay.
never. No, you're here to play a full game of basketball. I'm not telling you to relax anywhere. Yeah, I'm being
Because
honest.
people will
like,
say
no.
that as far as like, what do you expect him to be? He can't be great. That parallel between the Flyers and the Sixers, though, is pretty amazing. The Flyers, that Saturday game, they lost. That was one of the best games they played all year. That was fantastic. And they were the better team on the ice that day. They didn't win. They were the better team on the ice.
Yeah, it was funny. I thought it was a good game. I was talking. Egan was there also. He's like, he thought it was a real sloppy game.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. It can be entertaining and sloppy at the
sure.
same time. Flyers got a lot of shots. The fight was great. I mean,
my
it was
gosh.
just that was cool. And did you see the guy that he fought? What was his name? Hempy?
And he scored the winning goal.
He got he got in another fight yesterday and got lit up. I mean, lit up. But so it was a cool part of the game. It was a great atmosphere down there. A lot of blue in the stands, which sucked. But it was a really cool Saturday afternoon atmosphere down there.
And yesterday afternoon, Cal Peterson he doesn't need to play another game for the Flyers. That was disgrace. There were 3 goals yesterday that should not have been given up.
Yeah.
You score 6 goals at Pittsburgh and you lose, that sucks. I mean, that's bad. And I said it before, and I don't want them to be buyers at the trade deadline. That's not what I'm advocating for. You can get a veteran goaltender near the trade deadline in the NHL. Every year they move. Every year they change addresses. And I don't want this team to be quote-unquote buyers, but I want them to do something to address it. Because Carter Hart screwed the franchise, flat out. He put this franchise behind the 8 ball. And Urson can't be counted on to do everything. So you need someone else in here, a reasonable priced veteran who can come in here and give you a more competent goaltending than that. When you score 6 in the NHL, you should win, period. That was terrible yesterday.
What do they have left? Like 25
23 games.
23?
It's unbelievable.
I mean, you're going to need your backup probably. You said there's, two more back-to-backs?
I think you're going to need
4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times. And I would just want it anyway, because what if you get a pulled groin, you get something, you get a tweak of something that keeps you out. But we're hoping that Jamie Drysdale's okay. That was quite a hit he took yesterday.
Yeah.
And Forster, that was so awesome that he took that right to the knee. It looked terrible. He limps off. He comes back, and he scores a goal to make it 7-6.
Yeah. Yeah, he had his knee bent in a place, even though you have knee pads on there. And the announcers were talking about you cut your knee pads a little bit to get a little more movement. But it seemed like it was right on the kneecap where there is padding.
Oh.
Although when your leg's bent like that, the padding is limited. So, I thought that could have been a real bad one. But, good for him. Came back and...
He's a hockey player, as they would say, Bob.
Yeah.
He's a hockey.
They are different.
He's a hockey player, and it certainly was all over it. Hey, the Combine begins this week. What does it mean to you? I'll tell you what it means to us next. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatics.
.com. Get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. Want to acknowledge this morning a major shakeup in the media, as the real media. Peter King retiring today in his Monday Morning Quarterback column. He is hanging him up. Now, he's going to continue to potentially do something on like a part-time basis, but he is retiring from full-time duty, and had various interactions with Peter over the years. There was always I always found him to have an interesting take. Didn't always agree with a lot of his takes, but always found really interesting, and he found creative angles. And I always would give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. I mean, a stalwart when you had to read stuff about the NFL. He was the go-to guy, and we used to have him on as a guest. I was just telling you, I think it was when a few years ago he used to be on with us every Monday or Tuesday morning, and always great insight. Always things that made you think.
Really good stuff. Go read the Monday Morning Quarterback today if you don't. I'd expect Albert Breer to be sort of probably take over that big column type situation, and Albert does a nice job. And I would always tell you, whether you want to, I don't know if you're an Albert Breer fan or not, but I will tell you this. So I'm doing my preseason 2017 NFL special, and I would do it on my national show on a Sunday, and I would have different voices from different networks, and I would record stuff during the week and then play it. It's like a preview issue. And I said, who is the dark horse team to win the Super Bowl? And that year, Albert Breer said to me, I think it's your Eagles. He said, I think this Eagles team is a lot better than you think it is. And at the time, I thought they were like a 11-5 type team. Thought they were ready to take that next step with Wentz. They'd be a playoff team. They, maybe win the NFC East. He said, I think it's your team that can win the Super Bowl. And I've reminded him of that many times. That was pretty good insights on his part. So congratulations and cheers to Peter King on a fantastic career. Now, this week is the Underwear Olympics, as it has been termed, the NFL Scouting Combine. And talking to some NFL players, being in a college football town for so many years in my career, you would talk to guys that would go to the Scouting Combine, and then they would come back, and you'd get to interview them and talk to them, and it's like, and all the guys would say, why do they make us walk out in front of a room of guys in our underwear? That seemed to be something like, okay, this thing's gotten weird. Combines are nothing more than analytics and measurables. So if you're a fan of analytics and measurables, this week is going to be chock full of information for you about who potentially could be on the Eagles' radar, who could potentially be a fast riser or otherwise. But if I'm an NFL executive, and I've always had this opinion, and I've got actual game tape from a credible conference to watch over 2 or 3 seasons, I'm not sure how much I'd be interested in the Combine except for one thing, being able to interview guys. You get to pick 30 players, I believe is the number. That was the number last year. 30 players you're allowed to interview personally up in your suites. And to me, I think that would pretty much be it, Bob. If I saw a guy played in the Big Ten, played in the SEC, played in the ACC, and they played Pac-12, whatever it is, and they played 2 or 3 seasons, I've got tons of game tape on them. I'm not sure that anything they do in a 40-yard dash or a high jump is going to influence me as far as, yeah, I got to draft that guy. But the chance to interview 30 guys, I will be interested to see who the Eagles interview. That interests me. Who do you want to get eyeballs on? Who do you want to meet? Who do you want to talk to?
Yeah, I think you go into these things knowing who you like or who, you might want to keep an eye on. And then you go and you get either justification or it brings you to I don't know. I don't like the way he moves there or this way. And then the other part of it is, does a guy stand out? And then you say, oh, I hadn't looked at him. And then you go back and watch tape after seeing him at the Combine. I think you have a really good idea. I don't know if the Combine takes you over the top one way or drops you off another way all that much. I think, I used to go to the NBA Combine every year in Chicago. And, you see these kids playing college. You think you have a pretty good idea. Now, that's different. They're playing games and doing drills and stuff like that. But then you go and see him in person, and you either get a, oh, wow, that's even more fluid than it looked on TV, or it's a, ooh. You know, like, why does that shot take so long to get out of his hands? Yeah, so you have to do the eye test, but I'm sure almost all of these GMs have a really good idea of what players are.
You know what's really cool, Gunn? I think you'd love this.
What is it?
I had a kid from University of Georgia who ended up being a first-round pick who spent $400 shipping back all the free swag they got from NFL teams.
I would do the same thing.
Sweatshirts, hoodies, $400. He showed the slip. It was 400 some bucks of shipping back just all the gear from all the team interviews he got. Hey, here's an Eagles hoodie. Here's Eagles hats. Take some. And he was literally coming back to his before the pro day at Georgia, distributing like stuff to his teammates.
He's looking out for people.
Who are you a fan of? You a fan of the Bucks? I remember the Bucks. Here's the Bucks hoodie. It was unbelievable though.
Robin Hood of the NFL Combine.
$400 of gear. I could see Cooney be making out like a king. You'd be loving it.
It took him $400 to ship it back.
Ship it back.
Okay.
So it is. We're talking hoodies and hats, T-shirts, things like that. And he was literally like, "Hey, I know this teammate's a Buccaneers fan. I got some Buck stuff for you."
He's looking out.
It's like Santa Claus.
Yeah, but as far as the combine goes, I feel like that's how you end up with a Jalen Reagor and a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, because you go in there looking for things to validate your opinion, right? That's how you pick those guys over the tape. Justin Jefferson, he showed you what he can do on the football field. Like last year, we left the combine and everybody said C.J. Stroud was as dumb as a rock, right? He scored 18 out of 100 on the Wonderlic test. Guess what? Now he's top 5 in MVP consideration heading into next year, and he took the team that was the worst in the NFL and took them to the playoffs. So I don't look that deep into the combine for validation. You should look at the tape, and that's all you need to know.
I want to know.
Why do they even have it? You know what I mean? Like
it is a money-making event, by the way.
I don't mind getting an eye on it. Like I'm not saying that's going to put. Like I'm trying to explain. Like that's not putting me over the top or cutting my legs out from saying no. I don't want this guy. But you need to see the eye test. You like to get up close. You can like we can look at a guy, John. You can do it on skates, and many of us can do it in other sports. Like I can watch a guy say, "Ooh,
he doesn't have that."
I don't like the way he opens his hips when he's trying to play defense as a basketball player or whatever. It's just an eye test type of thing, I think, to make sure. Okay, yeah, he's what I saw. I would hope that game tape overrides them running around in their underwear. Absolutely.
Well, I can't imagine, because to me, that's where you have a big analytics department like the Eagles have, and it gave you Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. And Jalen Reagor did not have the game tape that Justin Jefferson had. No, not even close. Not even the same level of competition.
Where the hell would analytics say that if the Eagles thought that Jalen Reagor was any better than Justin Jefferson?
Could it have been vertical leap? I don't know what. I don't know what it is.
That's egregious.
That is egregious.
Yeah.
It is. It's egregious.
Yeah, the 4-cone drill, he's getting in and out of his cuts faster, I guess. They wanted a slot receiver, so they were looking for, I guess, analytical numbers that, defended that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I think sometimes analytics to me is about trying to find something that proves the opinion that you already have. Find me a number. Create a stat. What's it in the? What's the one in the NBA? Raptor or something? There's like.
Just go look at the scoreboard at a Phillies game. You'll get all the analytical numbers you need.
Yeah, it's like numbers that the average 3/4 of the fans have no idea what it means. The gibberish that's on the jumbotron, and it's like we're going to give you numbers that are going to say, yeah, you think you know the game, but here's the real deep dive. When a runner's on second and a left-hand batter's up, we've created this new stat that tells you how successful they are. I think analytics are about proving what you already believe. I think it's executives saying, here's what we think about a guy. Give me some numbers that back up my opinion. So that way when I'm pressed on it, I can tell you, bang, bang, bang. It's like a self-validation process.
If the eye test isn't the first test that your guy is having to pass, if I'm a GM or what executive and I'm watching, if eye test isn't the first one that passes, man, that doesn't sit right with me. I just no.
I want Cooney in my scouting department. I want that because I want that to be the overriding thing. Eyeballs. And guess what? This week, I just want to know, and we'll hear it on our special Combine broadcasts coming up after the best show ever this week. I want to hear who the Eagles are meeting with. It's a big thing. And sometimes they meet with people, NFL teams will meet with people to eliminate them. I'll see if I can get Thomas Dimitroff on this week, former general manager and also from Sumer Sports, that sometimes they would interview guys that they were having internal debate on, and they wanted to see if they could eliminate them by meeting with them in person. So we'll have some great insights this week. Don't miss it. Our own Andrew DeCecco from Inside the Birds is out there. Connor and Tom will have a broadcast they'll be anchoring at 6 o'clock after Best Show Ever. Stay tuned. We'll give you all the details on that. I thought of Bob Cooney yesterday. Well, just fondly on a Sunday morning. I wondered if Bob Cooney was right yesterday morning. Or was Rob Thompson trolling people with Kyle Schwarber batting cleanup in a spring training game? Bob was the only one of us, only one, who insisted, no, I think we're going to be surprised. I think he's going to surprise us. And yesterday, for Schwarber's first game, he bats cleanup, and all I could think of is Thompson's either a big Cooney fan and wants him to be right, or Thompson just sort of trolls us a little bit. Yeah, we'll put Schwarber in there. And then but when the season comes, we know what we're going to do.
No, it's happening, John.
So it's
bigger than all of us. Yeah.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, he's seen the light of day. He wants to have Trey Turner leading off or Stott leading off. He had Turner leading off yesterday, right?
Yeah. What do you think about that? I like it.
I told you. I think all of us went with. I have it here. All of us went with Stott and Turner. Stott or Turner. I had Stott leading off. You and Pat had Turner leading off. Because of his proclivity to go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, or right, left, right, left. I think it's going to be Stott, Turner, Harper, Schwarber, blah 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 blah. I do. I don't think Schwarber's leading off this year.
Do you consider that pressure on Stott? Because we talk about Tyrese Maxey, his fourth year in the NBA. How much can you put in his shoulders? Is it pressure to put him at the top of the lineup with Stott to set the table? He sees a lot of pitches.
Yeah, maybe kind of, sort of. But do you remember the player 2 years ago that I said to you? He kind of has this quality about him of another former Philly. Do you remember who I compared him to?
Was it? It
was the guy that paid his position.
Utley?
I said his mannerisms kind of remind me of Utley a little bit. Now, was he going to be that type of a player?
Who knows?
Who knows? But he was a 280 hitter last year. I think it's Kruk who often says, and I think the other guys agree, this is a kid that they think is going to battle for a National League batting title one year. They think he's that good of a hitter. I have no problem. I think he's just a cool, very cool player, and that nothing really gets to him. We saw it when he was, his first year as a starter in the playoffs.
That Braves series, that at bat,
taking 9 pitches, yeah. I just think he's a professional hitter. So whether it's him or Turner at the top of the lineup, either one is fine with me. Listen to that speed that you could have. I mean, and then you're just talking first inning. Go through a game and you get down the bottom of the order and you have a Marsh, Rojas, Turner, Stott. Those are 4 really fast dudes. That's fun.
What kind of pitching, too? One of those guys gets on base. What kind of pitches is Bryce Harper going to see third if he's got Schwarber behind him, too, with men on base already?
Yeah.
Worried about the big swat. I don't understand why this was never the way that things were going to be done. I'd love to see it. I'm waiting anxiously to see the lineups.
Oh, it's happening, John. It's bigger than you. Trust me. It's happening.
Well, there are a lot of things bigger than me.
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
Nola looked good yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Rojas getting some power in Saturday's game. Hit one off the wall for a triple, getting a couple of RBIs. That's good. Yeah, 2 games in, you got to be happy, right?
Exactly. And you do the same thing. I don't care about final scores. I care about performances of players.
Yeah, no, yeah. How did they look
about-
at the plate? Somebody wrote something yesterday about Castellanos. He went 1 for 3, but he didn't swing at one pitch out of the strike zone. Like, that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's what absolutely. At that point, we're looking for it.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But, Bob, you brought up a thing, too, is that it's fun to have it on.
It is. It's baseball.
February, right.
I guess it's Pat who says, wake me up in 3 weeks. I really don't care about it much now. I don't know. There's something to turning on a game at 1 o'clock. How about how great 1 o'clock was yesterday?
Oh.
You had Sixers game. You had a Phillies game.
Flyers 3:30.
Flyers came on at 3:30. You had college basketball going on at 1 o'clock also. Like, it was really cool. So when the Sixers were on a timeout, I'd go over to the Phillies, and you see like a sold-out, warm Florida day, baseball, crack of the bat. Is it cliche, all that stuff? Yeah, I love it. I do love it. I love the beginning of every sport because it's like the first day of school to me. It's something different. You don't know what's going to happen. It's fun. It's exciting. And we've been spoiled, we have to be honest, over the last few years, except for this Flyers team, and now they're growing into something. We've had pretty good expectations for most of our sports team over the last few years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've had heartbreak. Like, there's been some heartbreak.
Oh, yeah.
That has been coming our way. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun, but to me, it's nothing more than background noise. I'm not watching that closely. I'll look up when something happens. But that Sixers game lost my interest quickly yesterday. And I kept going back thinking, at one point in the second quarter, they cut it to 6. They made that big charge.
Yeah.
And they cut it to 6. And I'm like, damn, okay. It's going to be a little more like Friday night. And I don't know what the Cavs are doing. I know how the Cavs are.
Well, you got Mitchell out that night, when your best player all of a sudden is out with a sickness again. I guess he missed 2 in a row. Yeah, that was big to Cleveland to miss him. But, you're looking at the Sixers. You're playing a good team in Milwaukee. They cut it to 6. Here's what goes on in my mind. They got to get stops, and they can't get stops.
No, they have no stops.
They can't get stops. Their stops are when other teams take bad shots or miss open shots. That's not good enough.
Mike from Delran's on the line. Michael, good morning.
Yo, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, you know what? I know it's spring training, and like what you just said, Pat says waking up in 3 weeks. But with the way the Eagles season ended and Embiid getting hurt, I've been so sour on sports for the last few weeks or month maybe that I was just happy to see it, man. I was. It was exciting. It lets me know that warmer weather's coming, and we got something to look forward to again at the beginning of it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And real quick,
Yes.
I just want to thank everybody that came out this weekend. I had that comedy thing.
How was it, Mike? Good?
I felt like it went well. It was everything I imagined it would go. We sold out 2 shows, over 240 people. It was awesome. So it was,
Do you feel like you are hitting your stride?
I'm ready, dude. This is yeah.
He
I'm
hit his
ready.
stride in his first at bat. Mike was ready to go. First time he was up there.
That's awesome.
Every time I've gone up a bunch of times to open mics, but last night was probably the largest thing I've done. And every time I've gone up, I've come down feeling like, you know what, this is the thing. So thanks again to everybody. Love you guys.
There you go, Mike.
All
Keep
right,
it
Mike.
going.
Yeah, Mike's
Let's
really
chase that
talented.
passion. Yes,
Yeah.
he is. Well, he's a character.
Yeah, he sent me a text a few weeks ago asking if I could come out. We had stuff going on all weekend. I couldn't get there, but I can't wait to go see Mike at a comedy club because he sent a clip before. I think I shared it with you.
Yes, it was funny as hell.
He was hysterical. Yeah, I love that stuff. So we'll get to see Mike.
So the Phillies have done away with Dollar Dog Night, and people were like all upset about it and everything. Well, if people don't act like idiots, you could have Dollar Dog Night, but you have people pelting the field with hot dogs. It's not smart.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Dollar Dog Nights. I went to 2 of them last year. The first one, I had, front row seats, and then I missed 4 innings because with the pitch clock and people acting like madmen in line, you couldn't get a hot dog. And then the second time I got there an hour early so I could get mine. And then, by the end, you can't even get yours, and people are tossing them at each other on the field. I see people, tucked in their arms, taking them home. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with those? They're like, I'm taking them home to put in my freezer. I'm like, you can buy a pack of hot dogs at Acme.
For like 3, right?
There's something better about dogs at the park, though. I don't know what it is. They
You
probably
think they're
are
better?
I
Yeah.
do.
The dirty water that they're cooking
Damn
or
straight,
something?
man. Dirty it up because they're delicious.
There
Yeah,
is
they are
something.
better.
There is something about a hot dog at a ballpark.
Ah, it's the best ever.
We never have hot dogs in our home. Ever.
No?
Like, we do not have them in our house. If I'm going to put something on the grill, it's going to be like a sausage or something, like a brat. I'd much rather have a brat.
I
or
love a good
something.
hot dog. Like, yeah,
But-
any barbecue, there has to be hot dogs there.
Sure.
Oh, so Haley was taking them home to freeze them.
Some people were. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen.
That is bizarre because you can buy them. You don't have to.
Yeah, they're great at the
And
ballpark.
how many's in a pack of hot dogs? 10?
That's 8.
12.
Yeah.
I don't know, it might be 10 or 12.
There's a variety packs.
and
of
you could
dogs.
do, and they're like three, like there's like three something. It doesn't make any sense. I never understood, but when fans act like idiots, the team can't do it.
Wow. Why are your fans acting like idiots?
Because they
were
pelted the
lying-
field with them last year. Remember? Don't you remember Dollar Dog Night?
No,
Or you
I
were
don't
on vacation.
remember
You
that.
might have been on vacation.
Yeah, they're throwing them at
They're
each other.
throwing them
Yeah,
at-
it became like a
throwing them at each
snowball
other.
fight with hot dogs.
And they
it was
got
a-
on the field?
Oh, some got
people
on the
did.
field.
I mean,
yes.
I thought it was like all in good fun. You can't interrupt the game, so one or two ended up on the field.
and then
They
no, but-
shoot hot
no.
dogs out of a cannon.
No,
I mean,
but
they're going to
fans-
blame
the
people
Fanatic
for
shot
throwing
an old
them?
lady in
No,
the,
they
in
were
the face.
they were literally having sections throwing them at each other.
That's good.
It's
Who
just-
doesn't like a
yeah.
little hot dog fight once in a while? Come on.
Exactly. By the way, the Flyers could have Dollar Dog Night. They've had no problems. They've had no problems with it.
Yeah, because it's not as notarized. Like, you think of Dollar Dog Night, you think of the Phillies. Like, the Flyers have them, but who really knows?
You see, we can't have nice things. When people act like idiots, we can't have nice things. Just takes it away.
I'm not above throwing a hot dog.
I'll tell you why I don't care that it's gone. Because every single shop was selling hot dogs, even the beer store. So you couldn't even get a beer at Citizens Bank Park on Dollar Dog Night because people were in line for hot dogs.
Oof. Bob thinks this guy is doing one of the greatest coaching jobs in the city. We'll talk about it. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatic. Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We appreciate you hanging out with us all week, and with the scouting combine going on, special broadcasts after Best Show Ever. With Connor and Tom and Bill Colarulo will join in, and then also live from Indianapolis, Inside the Birds, and our own 97.5 The Fanatics, Andrew DeCecco, will also be checking in, so you're going to get the best coverage every single night right after the Best Show Ever during the course of the week. I think 3 of the nights this week and then once preemption. So we'll keep you above that. And Andrew joins us in depth on Thursday this morning on the morning show to talk about it coming up a little bit later on in the week. This weekend, and Bob, you brought up the parallels earlier between looking at the Sixers and looking at the Flyers. And the Flyers have just tons of fight in them. And it doesn't surprise me when I look at the history of John Tortorella that the guy's a really good coach. And he's done a really, really good job, and it's impressed you too.
Well, it's a weird season, right? You come in with no expectations. You come in with limited stars. You come in with them knowing that there's a black cloud over your head in that one of your draft picks doesn't want to play here, and your goaltender of the future has something that's hanging over his head also, which ultimately looks like it's going to take him out of this organization and league. So there's all of that going on. I'm not kissing it. It was funny. I said something on air a couple weeks ago, and I walked out, and somebody said, how can you say you like John Tortorella? I said, I didn't say I don't know him to like him or dislike him. I said he intrigues me. And I think what Tortorella has done this year with this team, if you sit back and just look and see, there was a good story in the other day about how differently he has to coach this team because of how it is. Now, that's a coach's job. A coach has to coach a team in different ways all the time, depending on their makeup. Well, this was a young team that, in Tortorella's mind, didn't really know how to play, especially the way he wanted them to. But the back-breaking coach that he once wasn't going to work with this group. And he realized that. And he said in the story, he's like, that's been the toughest thing. I've had to change the way I coach, where I have to put some on the players now. Before I used to just, but I'm getting feedback from them also. I'm letting them talk. I just think it's really, and I still am, very intrigued with the way he's handled this year. It was a question I wanted to put out to listeners and to you guys. Do you think he's having one of the better coaching years than we've seen in a while, or is this just playing out the way that maybe it should have?
It's too old a reference, but I know it because I saw it firsthand. It's too long, but Keenan's first year, he had the youngest team in the NHL. He was the youngest coach in the NHL, and he took a team to the Stanley Cup Finals in his first year. Very rarely do you see that kind of success with young teams. But what I am so admire about John Tortorella is the idea of the self-awareness to go, can't handle this team like I've handled other teams. Got to take a different approach. And to me, that's just being wise. That's the sage, wise coach.
Yeah, a 45-year-old, 55-year-old John Tortorella probably doesn't handle this team the way the 65-year-old John Tortorella has.
Absolutely not.
You can watch a player develop, a Tyrese Maxey, an Owen Tippett. You can watch guys, athletes, get better, Bryson Stott, as they go on, and you can see that development and put your hands around it and say, wow, this is what he's done. It's harder to do for a coach, but I find it fascinating. I've always loved to try to be in a coach's mind, see what they're thinking, see what they're doing, and he does. He intrigues me. And that story the other day even further, gave me proof of, man, this guy's doing something totally different that sometimes he probably looks at himself and says, I can't believe this is me coaching the way I'm coaching. But there seems to be some of that, and I respect that. I do. I've told you guys before, my favorite thing of a coach is to come in and adjust because you see what you have, instead of coming in and saying, I'm doing it this way, abide by me and here we go. and you might not have the players that react to that. He seems to have done it the different way, the way that I like, where he came in, assessed, saw how he needed to handle it, and it looks like it's going well.
Do you think it's a generational thing, though? That the,
he said that
the athletes he's coaching today are different than the athletes he coached.
He said that in the story. He did. He said they're just different now. You have to let them talk. You have to let them, give you feedback on what you're saying. Whereas before, he was probably like a dictator. What I say goes. Shut your mouth and play. Now it's different. And, people look at me and you, him, these old heads, they don't know what he's still learning. He's still adjusting. He's still doing things differently because he has to. Yeah, to me, that's cool. Like, I kind of look at him as a coach, and I don't know him, from anything. He doesn't know me. The few times I've talked to him, I really liked it. All the times that I've listened to him talk, I see kind of what he's doing. I don't like the snippiness with certain things, and that's fine. That's his decision. But when you get to sit down and listen to him talk, like he did for about 15 minutes the other day, he does intrigue me. He does. He's the kind of guy that I probably would disagree with a lot, but I probably would agree with a lot too. But there's an intriguing thing to him.
I was looking at it, so I read your note that this is something you were going to talk about today. And I wrote down a note to myself, and I said, all 4 coaches in town of the pro coaches don't resemble each other to me. They all have very different makeups.
Yeah.
Rob Thompson is a completely different makeup than John Tortorella, and they're in the same age group. Nick Nurse, to me, is a completely different guy than Nick Sirianni. As far as there's different ways. And look, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But there's we have 4 absolutely different head coaches in this town. And considering how hard they say it is to coach here, that interests me. Like, which approach is best? I love a Tortorella. Like, I love an approach like that. I tend to not to relate to I don't relate at all to the Nick Sirianni. The over energetic, that we pay attention to the coach too much. And to me, like that I don't relate to as coaches that I've respected, coaches that I've liked. Not that he hasn't done a good job, but it's just not what I relate to. Whereas I relate more to a Tortorella or even a Nick Nurse. It's just personal preference. The Rob Thompson I can't relate to either. I just can't relate to being that laid back. I'm not that laid back about anything. And he is slow and steady wins the race, the Rob Thompson. Slow and steady wins the race. And that's something that if somebody wants me to believe that, I have to be reminded of it constantly. And I've had bosses that have reminded me of that constantly.
It's, baseball's so much different. It's hard to be balls to the wall for 162,
Sure.
But, our complaints about Rob Thompson when they do arise are about him doing too much, taking a pitcher out too early, using your bullpen too much.
Overthinking it.
Yeah. So, like, it's not, is he laid back and have that personality? Yeah, but he does an awful lot as far as strategy goes in a baseball game, in a baseball series. Some of it works very well. Sometimes it doesn't. It's funny. They are different. I would kind of put Nurse and Tortorella.
They're in the same family tree.
They're kind of like, because it's, I love that there was a story about him this week, Tortorella, that his wife got him a hat. I think his wife got him the hat. He has a grandkid, and it said, instead of grandpa, it said grandpa.
Oh.
On it. Like that. That's funny. So that's, I guess, who he is. But, yeah, I find him intriguing this year. And, look, he's
doing the job.
It seems like it so far this year, yeah. And if all can come together, maybe this is the guy to see it through.
The 8 a.m. hour on a Fanatic Monday, presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com and get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system. We appreciate you being a part of the show, sticking around and having fun with us. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. Those who are listening on the app, we have noticed a lot of the traffic on the app. We appreciate that, too. And continue to stick with us all day long. Andrew's back at 10, and the best show ever today at 2. Derek Gunn this weekend joined Bill Colarulo, and Bill's doing a fine job Saturday and Sunday mornings. I'm running errands on Saturday. I'm in and out of the car. I'm listening to Bill, and he had an interesting interview with Derek Gunn. And they were talking about the whole A.J. Brown situation and what he had reported last week. And one of the things that he wanted to point out was the fact that, in Derek Gunn's opinion, there's no comparison between Jalen Hurts and this guy.
I don't think that's any way, shape, or form going to happen. I think Jalen is a completely different player from a Carson Wentz. You know, players love Jalen. They loved him in 22. They loved him for the most part in 23, and then all these rumors started coming out. I think these players still have a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts, and I don't think Jalen Hurts' personality is going to hurt that in any way, shape, or form. There's some tweaking that needs to be done in terms of leadership, yes, but I think these players, when they hit the ground running in May, June, August, September, they will follow Jalen Hurts wholeheartedly.
That intrigued me what he said, Bob. There's some tweaking that has to go on in regards to leadership. You don't like the word leadership. It's always sort of one of those buzzwords. But that was an interesting observation from Derek Gunn. I would have loved to have heard a little more on, well, what's lacking there?
Well, I guess
what needs to be changed, tweaked.
Well, everybody's personality could use a little, something, I'm sure. But again, we're diving into what we need a 25-year-old quarterback to be like perfect in his personality. So he has quirks. So, all of that. And then saying, everybody will follow once he picks up on those things. That's one of the pet peeves that I have. And look, Derek's covered more teams than I have, maybe, or about we've been around a long time, both of us. Follow. I'm telling you, I think that goes over to athletes like stepping on Legos. I really don't consider them
on Legos. I don't do it anymore.
I don't think there's many of them that consider themselves followers when they're playing in the best league in the world at their profession, and they're one of the best at it in all the world. I really don't think they're looking to follow somebody. But leadership qualities, a quarterback has to have that. We all know that. You can't win without it.
And what are those qualities to you?
Well, good play. It is.
You want people to follow you.
Yeah, good play, doing the right work, being in there studying, and all of those things, which doesn't seem to be a problem with Jalen Hurts at all. I don't know what Derek was alluding to. Maybe it was something about he needs to speak up more during game days. Don't sit on the sideline with this blank stare all the time. I look at those things and say, like, does that matter to me if I'm a player? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe they do want him with the offensive coordinator more or on an iPad more instead of just sitting stoically on the bench with a jacket wrapped around them. I don't know.
I know that one thing that was brought up was the idea was there extra pressure on Jalen Hurts last year to live up to that big contract? Listen.
A lot of players, when they get a big contract, that's a lot of undue pressure on them, and everybody handles it differently. And the more money you get, the more magnified you become, the more responsibilities people thrust upon you, and the more directions you're pulled in. And that was the case with Jalen. A lot of outside community events, appearances, things of that nature, more pressure on him to perform, and so these things happen.
Okay. The only issue I've got with this, and I've been around a long time, seen a lot of NFL quarterbacks, so I'm just going to use NFL quarterbacks as the example. I've observed a ton of NFL quarterbacks at their craft. They all have these polls. Like every single one of them has these polls where they're asked for, you're going to get involved in this community event, or you're going to be speaking at this thing. They want you to show up for this award ceremony or something. This isn't something unique to being quarterback of the Eagles.
No, but
quarterback of the Falcons has got it. Quarterback of whoever it is.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're all handle it the same. Everybody's different. Like maybe Jalen Hurts. Let's use the movie reference Rocky. Here he is. He loses a fight, and they try to get him to do commercials. He's not a commercial guy. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't a guy that can run around the circuit and do all these things, or doesn't like to, but does them because he has to now, because of this big contract, because you're the face of the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't lump him with everybody else that has done it and done it successfully. Some guys can. Other guys might not like doing it, and it might throw them off a little bit. I can't make an assumption on that. You know what I mean? Like, because others have done it well means Jalen Hurts should be able to do it well? Nah.
I'm just saying it's not a unique circumstance that he's being asked to do these things.
For him, it might be.
No,
that's all he knows.
No, but what I'm saying is unique is when you're an NFL starting quarterback, there's a ton of people pulling at you. Oh, by the way, Terry Bradshaw's coming in to do a one-on-one with you. And you got to do this. Jeffrey Lurie has this event that you need to show up at. Like, there's always these pulls for these starting quarterbacks. It's not easy. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, it might be easier for some, like some of the ones you referenced, and it might be harder for others, maybe for Jalen Hurts. It's tough. Everybody's their own individual. You know, we like lumping people in. I always am careful of doing because everybody's different. Jalen Hurts might hate doing those one-on-one interviews with Fox, with whoever. He might hate that, and he might say, no, from 2 to 3 is when I do this, and now you're asking me to do that? I don't like it. It gets me off. Maybe that is, and maybe that's some of the things that Derek's alluding to that he has to get better at or get more used to.
Gut instinct. Derek Gunn was asked, what's he think about the ability of Jalen Hurts to be able to bounce back?
He still put up decent numbers, but he also had a lot more flaws in his game. And then, of course, things started to unravel, and the more they unraveled, the more they magnified they became. And so that's understandable. Now, I fully expect Jalen to bounce back big time in 2024. Will it be to an MVP level in a new offense under Kellen Moore? That remains to be seen. But I don't think his overall season in 24 will be anything like 23.
And I completely share Derek Gunn's opinion there. I don't believe 2024 will look like 2023. But
for him or in general?
For Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts will get back to being closer to the quarterback he was in 22, but I don't want to put that on him either. Like, I don't want to put that Jalen Hurts has to be one of the favorites for MVP in the month of December because I think this team could still be really, really good without that being the conversation. He doesn't have to be MVP Jalen Hurts. With this offensive talent, he's going to benefit just from what he facilitates. He's going to benefit from all the talent that he's got. I don't think he needs to go out there and be 2022 Jalen Hurts for this team to have a chance to go to a Super Bowl.
So after 11 games, he was the leader for MVP odds in Las Vegas.
He was.
Last year, he was runner-up to MVP, and the team went 14-3 and went to the Super Bowl. Are we sure that this team doesn't need him to be MVP caliber type?
That's a good point. I mean, I always think that the quarterback is going to benefit from a team. If you're 10-1 and nobody else is, the credit is going to go to you maybe more than it goes to someone else. And too much blame, too, by the way. Too much blame. The quarterback's going to also take more of the bullets.
Could Jalen Hurts this year be somewhere in between 22 and 23, and that would be good enough?
Yes, as long as it's closer to 22 than 23. Yes, I mean, like you're playing the range game on Price is Right.
Yeah.
I got to get closer.
Whatever
you
the
hate
hell
Price
that
is Right, but it's the idea. Yes, I think it could be. Where do you fall on that, Brendan? Do you agree with?
I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I mean, I think he can improve on his 2022 season when he missed the 2 games. I think he can have better numbers than that. I don't know if he'll ever have an MVP caliber season again, but I think he can up his career totals because he missed 2 games. So I think next year, with a year of experience, getting pulled in a million different directions, I think that's really going to help him next year. And with Kellen Moore's offense, I think how can it not be better than what we saw this past year? It just has to be better.
If he's not if he isn't like a 4,200-yard passer next year with Kellen Moore's offense, then I will tell you that I will be questioning going, come on, we got to be a more dynamic passing attack.
In the 4 years Kellen Moore coached Dak Prescott, Dak averaged 287 yards per game. That equals like
4,800 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a communications major, not a math
yards,
guy.
yes.
Yeah.
That Strathaven math really served you well.
So, I mean, I don't expect Jalen Hurts to get that, but can he surpass 4,000 yards? I expect so. And Dak averaged 2 touchdown passes a game. You know, that's going to be 30. Can Jalen Hurts eclipse that number for the first time in his career? I think so. I think he is going to eclipse both those numbers. So I expect him to have a bounce back year, and he's going to get back on track of being one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC.
I mean, I don't look at if you were talking and this week, you know, you're trying to do analysis right now and going, who are the quarterbacks he has to out hustle in the NFC? Dak is one of them. whether you think Dak sucks or not, you can say whatever you want. Dak has been a more productive quarterback than Jalen as far as passing the football, better passer, better pure passer and everything. I'm trying to think of the quarterbacks in the NFC that you're that impressed with, that we're really that impressed with.
No, we talked about it before. The AFC's loaded. The NFC's kind of like just seesaw teetering around.
And I like Purdy. I like Purdy.
Yeah, there's guys that are there, but they're all question marks.
I mean, like, everybody now is on the Jordan Love bandwagon. Nobody was touting Jordan Love before Thanksgiving. Nobody. There was nobody going, man, keep an eye on Jordan Love, man. He's the guy. Nobody was doing that before Thanksgiving. There's a recency bias to he burst onto the scene. He all of a sudden got in a role, and people were like, look at Jordan Love. What's he going to do with a offseason of people studying his film? Which is what this year happened to Jalen Hurts. They had an offseason of studying Jalen Hurts, and I don't think he responded to that well. The extra they had game plans for Jalen Hurts, and teams were very, very adept at understanding how to handle him as far as the RPO. They handled him very, very well.
Well, I mean, that, like you always bring up, that happens to everybody.
Yep.
Everybody gets studied. Everybody has their tendencies. But how do the better quarterbacks overcome it? By performing and, by being on the same page with their coordinators and coaches and throwing good pen, finding your open receivers and all of those things and not giving up on a pocket as quickly. There was many things this year that Jalen Hurts did that he didn't do the year before. And it probably led to his, having a subpar season compared to 2022.
Yeah, do I believe Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and throw double-digit interceptions again? I don't, because everything I've seen, he is careful with the ball. Last year was the anomaly. I don't expect that to happen again.
Bob wants to know about you changing your mind. I know for me, it's like moving a boulder. We'll get to it next. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Doc's Revenge. I'm Brendan Gunn, and this update is brought to you by...
TheFanatic.com.
Hopefully your Monday morning's off to a great start hanging out with us. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. The up and the down, the cold and the hot. Spring training with the Phillies is definitely at least giving us a visual of better days to come right around the corner, because it's either freezing cold or it's going to get really, really warm this week, record warm. So it's all teasing us. We're all getting teased. But hopefully you'll stick with The Fanatic all week long as it's Combine Week. You'll have special Combine coverage after Best Show Ever this week with Connor and Tom. Bill Colarulo checking in, and also, too, from the Scouting Combine inside the Birds in 97.5, The Fanatic's Andrew DeCecca will also join us from Indianapolis. Surprisingly, Bob, one of my favorite cities I ever visited for a Super Bowl. Hands down.
What, Los Angeles?
No, Indianapolis.
Oh, Indy.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I loved the habit trails and the tunnels, the tunnel system. Imagine you were at Temple. So I'm trying to give a landmark that someone might know. You're at Temple University, and you could walk through indoor tunnels down to City Hall with vendors and places to get something to eat and everything, but a tunnel system built in, or habit trails that go above the streets, that connect you. You can literally walk 7-8 city blocks minimum on these habit trails that walk above to keep you warm in the middle of winter. It's brilliant to me.
Yeah,
A rainy
Milwaukee
day.
has that. Chicago. There's a lot of the cold cities that have that.
Minnesota has it big time,
Minnesota
too.
has it big time. Yeah. I don't know if I ever used it that much in Indy.
You're a walker, so I would be shocked that you didn't do
But
that.
yeah, I mean, in Milwaukee and Minnesota, yeah, I always would walk the trails to get to where you're going to go to stay indoors as much as you can. But yeah, I was in Indy for a Final Four. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine city.
I wish we had it more.
Yeah, the airport's not that far away, 15, 20
Right.
minutes away. You can get good hotels right downtown, and there's plenty of places to walk and eat and all that stuff.
And eat.
So, yeah.
Now we'll expect the over-under on 7.5 of how many people you will see tweet out that they are having the shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's, and whether they can handle the hot cocktail sauce. I'm putting the over-under number at 7.5. We'll see how many people use that in the course of the week. Changing your mind, Bob, it's not something that I am. It's not really in the tool chest for me.
No, you're pig-headed.
Well, I was going to put it a little kinder than that. But
Oh,
that's
I thought
okay.
that's what you
got
said
No, but that
earlier.
is. No, I am though. It's moving a boulder for me. It's moving a boulder. I'm not the most flexible in changing my mind, but in sports, it's something that we got to do all the time, right?
Yeah, I'm watching all these games this week, and I'm thinking I wanted to throw it out to you guys because I have some people in mind. Who is a player that you've really changed your mind on?
Are we keeping it current?
Yeah, let's keep it current. Maybe somebody that you liked when they first came in, and now you're like frustrated by them. Maybe somebody that came in and you had no expectations, and now it's totally different. Do you have any guys like that in the current state of Philadelphia sports? And look, maybe it could be somebody else too. Maybe it could be an executive or a coach or something like that.
I'm going to go to a guy that is sort of a lightning rod at times, and we've talked about him in this show. I was a believer that Kyle Schwarber was a one-trick pony. Like, he does one thing well, and that's it, without giving him credit for having a good eye at the plate, without having him giving him enough credit for I am not a vibes guy. I don't believe in you got to have a guy like Kyle Schwarber around for vibe. Like you got to have the backup catcher's got to be here because he's for the vibes. I've been in enough locker rooms over my career that I don't believe that is a necessity, that you have that. But I think I underestimated Kyle Schwarber and thought of him as a one-trick pony, and he has clearly proven to be a better skill set than that.
How about you, B? You got anybody that you either liked and now they're kind of waning a little bit, or someone you didn't like that has grown on you?
I think it's the other way around. Someone I didn't necessarily like. I wanted to like this person, and then he got himself into some trouble early on in his career. Now he's an Eagles legend. It's Lane Johnson. He had 2 suspensions of 4 games and then 10 games. And I thought this guy's just putting himself above the team. He doesn't want to be out there. We all see the record when he's not out there. And it was very, very frustrating. And then, he came out with the mental health stuff. He's been able to stay on the field, stay out of trouble after that. And like I said, he's a legend. He's one of the best tackles I've ever seen play football, regardless of the Eagles uniform or not. In the beginning, like I said, it was very, very frustrating seeing a guy go out there and just miss time for stupid reasons, performance-enhancing drugs. You don't need to do that, and he has almost made me completely forget about it until you just asked that question.
I do the up, down, up with this player. Liked him a lot at the beginning, a lot. Then started to, I don't want to say sour on me, that's a little bit too rough, but kind of like, didn't live up to my likeness for him, and now has peaked up again, where I consider him one of my favorite athletes in the city.
I can't figure out who you're talking about.
If Pat was here, he would get it, because he knew I used to have a love affair with this guy. It was very one-sided.
Yeah, I can't think
I'm hoping it was one-sided. You are married.
Travis Konechny.
Really?
When he first came up, I was like, I like this kid a lot. And we had him on air, and I freaked him out, like knowing background and stuff, and those guys were teasing him like, yo, this guy's nuts about you. Yeah, we had fun with it. And then his place dipped a little bit, and it was just the chippiness. And I thought, like, okay, play the game, stop being so chippy, concentrate on the game more. And now he's put them both together, where he's really playing the game well, and he's still that chippy guy that is a pain in the ass to opponents and stuff like that. Yeah, I've ridden the waves of him. Up here, then it kind of went down a little bit. Now I'm back up here with him, and I don't think he will be, but I hope to God he's not a thought of.
I don't think
moving.
he's going anywhere.
I don't think so. Not at 26. His contract is up, I believe, after next year. So I don't know. Another one I'll give you for me, John Middleton.
Okay, that's a really good one.
I can't say I was down on it. Like, it's hard to say. One of my pet peeves, somebody says, I can't stand somebody when they don't even know them. So I'm not going to say I couldn't stand. I don't know John Middleton at all. But I didn't like that. I didn't know who John Middleton was. Never heard from him or anything. Then all of a sudden, boom, here he comes. Yeah, I'm going to be the face of this team. And since then, I like it. He goes out and buys. He tries to get the best players. He's put together a World Series run and another run that got real close to it. Yeah, he's a guy that I was down here with, but now I kind of like him and greeting everybody in the stadium and all those things.
I love that.
I really do. Yeah.
I have one that I'm that definitely I think so many people probably would have on this subject, and it's Howie Roseman. And Howie is a thumbs-up direction guy for me now, even after this past year, because I do believe there are blips on the radar. But I was a Howie Roseman detractor because of his drafting.
Howie might be the definition of this subject.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially if you talk about up-down.
Oh, God, yeah.
But to me, I always value the general manager. I put more value on the draft for a general manager than I do buying free agents. Howie's skill set is really, really good at supplementing the roster and free agency and managing contracts and everything. My personal preference is the number one thing that a GM does well is draft well. And I don't think Howie's ever had a great reputation drafting well. And so to me, I didn't value enough of the other things that he does to make the Eagles roster as good as it's been.
Somebody mentioned Tobias Harris, and I thought about it because when he first came here, I really liked his skill set. I've told you guys the story of being on the floor and talking to somebody with the Sixers while he was warming up in a pregame, and saying to that person, I think that was a really good addition. I wasn't talking contract or anything. That has probably, if people liked him at first, that's probably gone down. But because of the contract, I don't think that many people had him up here to begin with.
Yes, exactly.
Could Aaron Nola see the same kind of thing with the Tobias Harris contract? Now that Aaron Nola's paid, he's always been a guy that's been up and down, up and down.
Yeah, that's
but now
a good
he has
one.
the big 7-year-long contract. Maybe it's going to be a lot more down because you're going to be expecting a lot more out of him.
Well, I'm not. You see, that's maybe the difference of, like we talked about John Tortorella being wise. I think it's one thing that I don't expect to see a different Aaron Nola at this point in his career. I expect that what we know of Aaron Nola, which, by the way, And I've always been a believer in pointing it out. He's had a lot of really good, too. He's had some bad moments. But, like, I'll never forget 2022, pitching them into the division championship with a almost a no-hitter against the Astros. Then the pitching performance he did in St. Louis on that Saturday night to close out the series. Then coming back, a 1-1 series, the game he pitched on that Friday afternoon against Spencer Strider was freaking awesome. So to me, I'm always going to look at those three starts and say, okay, he can prove he can do it in big games. He doesn't do it consistently, but I always believe that Aaron Nola's got it in him.
If there's been, that's interesting. That's a great point you make. If there's been, say, 8 games like that where you can point to Nola and say, this was a big game, and I would say he's probably 5-3.
Oh, I would
Not
agree.
record-wise.
No,
5
I would agree. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And 3, could have been better. And that's kind of a, I guess, a starter's sort of mentality.
I don't expect more out of Aaron Nola.
Yeah,
I just don't.
It's unfortunate for him that he has the first, 3 or 4 games of those, and they're all great. And then the lasting memory is the last game he has, and it's always kind of the worst part of his playoff run in the World Series and this past year, Game 6 in the NLCS. So we'll see. I think that could be going against him if things go south with Zach Wheeler and they don't get contract talk negotiations going. Then he's going to be pitted against Zach Wheeler by the fans saying we chose to pay this guy instead of Zach Wheeler, kind of like Tobias Harris was
See,
with
that
Jimmy
wasn't
Butler.
going to happen until you just mentioned it. It's
See,
your
now
fault.
stop it, Gun.
Yeah.
Let me rewind
By the
those
way,
out of
You
my...
know, it's funny, Aaron Nola, we always think of him, and John, you pointed it out, like you wonder about the head games going on with him. Runner gets on base, he slows down, the pitch clock and all. Well, there was a real simple little thing that they've changed this year with him. And the pitching coach, what's his name, Cotham? Or whatever?
Caleb,
yeah. He noticed that when Aaron Nola was on the mound and the pitching clock, would get close, he would look over his right shoulder at it. And then when he would pitch, because he would look over his right shoulder would be open more when he goes to throw the ball than it would if he's just normally looking at the catcher. Little thing that they changed. He's going to look over at the left clock now, over his left shoulder, so it'll keep his right shoulder closed. And that way when he comes to pitch, like I love those little intricacies of sports. And Nola talked about it in a story today because it makes a big difference. It really does. It allows me. Also, if there's a runner on base, I can see the runner and the clock at the same time, and there's 2 seconds less that he has to work with. But he says he's more comfortable now doing it. So
you remember last year how much time we spent about talking about the rule changes in baseball?
Yeah.
And how it became arguably one of the biggest non-stories ever. Like the baseball players and everything adjusted to it like that. You heard very little pushback. It was like that the changes were such a talking point for us, thinking this is going to change the game. And some people were like, it's going to change the game to the detriment. I got to tell you, doing this job and getting up at 4 a.m, to me, the games being over at 9:20, 9:25, 9:15 were a thing of beauty. And I think fans really reacted to it.
Even yesterday during the Phillies game, John, against the Yankees, I turn it on and Ben Davis said something like, and look at the crowd. What a great crowd we have today. And everybody's still here. And McCarthy goes, it was like 10 after 3. McCarthy says, the game's only 2 hours long and we're in the 8th inning already.
Yes.
That's probably a big reason for it. And
if you bring kids, it's a big reason.
It's awesome. Baseball, it might have been, and I told you guys, at the first 2 weeks of the year last year of baseball season, I said, I'm not sure. Not sure if I like this pitch clock. I couldn't love it anymore. I think it's one of the best things all of sports has done since I've been around. Take away, the 3-point shot and all those things. But to make a baseball game 2:45, 2.5, and you're starting at 7 and done at 9:30, that's phenomenal.
By the way, that 3-point shot, if I had a chance to abolish something in basketball, I loved watching basketball so much more before the 3-pointer.
4 corners basketball?
No, not 4 corners. Shot clock, still a shot clock. There's still a
What's
shot
wrong with
clock.
the 3-point shot?
I absolutely, because it's all I see. I see just too much gunning up threes because of the analytics of the game.
But that's in the past 10 years. Before that, the 3-point line still existed. They weren't playing like that.
I liked basketball. I really did. I enjoyed basketball in its more, I don't know, pure form?
I don't know. It's weird because I was talking to my high school coach who is very fundamentally sound and all of that. And I asked him one time about the three-point shot. I thought his line would be, no, get back to regular basketball. One of his lines was, all right, Moses Malone goes up and grabs 3 offensive rebounds, gets knocked in the face, hits a layup, getting offensive rebounds over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You're going to reward him only 2 points, but then a wide-open guard shoots from 27 feet and gets a three-pointer. But as the years went on, he said, I love the more you have to coach because of the three-point line. It changed the whole aspect of the game. It was funny. I sat at a high school. I think I told you this. I sat at a high school game last week with Fran Dunphy. Just so happened we were in the same gym, so he and I sat together. And I asked him, I said, he was looking through we were at my old high school, and we have a program that has all our records in it and stuff like that. And he's looking through it, and I said, Dunph, how many threes do you think you would have hit when you played? He goes, oh, quite a few. He said, did you ever? And the year after I played college ball, Gunner's going to look at me like I'm ancient. We didn't have a three-point line when I played college ball. The next year it came in. That's crazy to
think about.
Right. All right. It's not that good. But he asked me, how many would you have? I said, I don't think that many. Because I was a good outside shooter, but I didn't go way out. I said, why do you think it is nowadays that kids can hit from 35 feet when we couldn't? And it's not that they're stronger than we were in high school or anything like that.
That's all they do.
It's a different form.
Right.
It's the Steph Curry, start from the waist and shoot it out almost like a set shot. As I'm talking to him, a 5'2", 105-pounder launches a 30-footer and hits nothing but net. It's the changing of the game. I wonder if coaches like you like the purity of the old time.
Right.
We have to embrace change because it's always going to come.
Absolutely.
I'd have to sit long and hard and wonder if I like it better or not.
Yeah, did you like Sixers basketball before they traded for Buddy Hield? Because that was pretty much playing without a three-point line because they couldn't knock down any shots.
Well, I mean,
just packing the paint.
Well, not a good day to bring up Buddy to me right now. But I'd look until Embiid comes back. I'm watching. I'm watching and I'm hoping.
He was on the bench yesterday.
Yeah, he was there.
Good sign. Had little
Arthur.
Had Arthur with him.
There was something surprised me the other day. How much buzz the Delorier fight on Saturday afternoon, and you were there for it, Bob.
Yeah.
How much traction that got locally, nationally, and otherwise on social media. And I even saw our old buddy Mike Missinelli going, yeah, the fans all being detriment to the fight. Yeah, the fans all love the fight. Yeah, it's hockey. That's what hockey. I loved the freaking fight. Love it. I'm like, I think it is spectacular. I think it is a absolute part of the game that does not offend me. I'm shocked when people are offended by it. I don't understand people that are like, oh my gosh, the fighting in hockey. The fighting in hockey is non-existent nowadays. It's almost not even it used to be such a big part of the game. I loved that fight on Saturday. I was yelling in my living room watching that go down. Loved it. And to me, there are others who look at that as that's not hockey. To me, that is hockey.
Yeah, that's how we grew up. That was hockey. The electricity that fight brought to the Wells Fargo Center was immeasurable. I mean, people, and it was funny because I was waiting for my buddy. We were walking to our seats. We went to get a beer or whatever. And you know how they stop you while play is going on? So I was stopped right there in the tunnel, and nobody was in front of me, and the fight was right there in front of us. So I got a good look at it. Yeah, it was cool because why? It's not the norm anymore. It's not. Back in the day, you would get one of them a game.
Oh, easily.
And then that's why it tailed off because it was the brutality of it and all that. There's two ways to go on it. I'm not going to deny that I didn't sit there saying, oh, man, that was awesome. How come there's not fighting in other sports? You throw a punch in another sport, you're suspended. Here, you get 5 minutes.
I think it's a difference. First of all, I think the physicality is different. I think when you're wearing also, too, the game and the sport arises where guys have access to when you can fight, you can throw your gloves off and fight. And there's other sports where you're wearing helmets.
All right, what if you agree in football? All right, if two guys are going to rip off their helmets and square off, we're going to allow it. They'll have to sit out the next offensive, defensive series, whatever side of the ball they're on, but we're going to allow that. Would you be cool with it?
I don't think I'd have a problem. I don't think, even though it's not ever been a part of the game, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. They should be penalized some way. Maybe you're penalized. You can't play for, you're out for the rest of that half or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you fight late in the second half of a game, you're out for the first half of the next game.
But you're not going to be cool with that in that case, right? If Jason Kelsey gets in a fight, you're going to be calling the guy an idiot because he's missing a half of football now, which is much more detrimental to the team than missing, 5 minutes in hockey, especially when you have guys that are out there that are just enforcers. Like
you don't like it, or do you like it?
I like the fight, but at the same time, if hockey was the same way it was in the 80s and the 90s, do you have guys like Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid flying around the ice, breaking all the records and making it fun to watch, right?
Well, wait a minute. Those guys always existed. But
but they're not flying up and down the ice at the speed they were back in the day.
Well, they always had
today back then. If there's enforcers out there laying them out,
no,
if there's a Scott Stevens out there, Austin Matthews not flying up and down the same way he is today.
No, wait a minute. There were guys flying up and down in Scott Stevens' days. It's just that it's the difference of, first of all, there's no red line anymore, which helps. Also, too, there was always somebody there to defend the star that fought for them. There are very few times that guys were cheap shotting Gretzky, cheap shotting Lemieux, cheap shotting the stars of the game. They would get their asses beat. There would be that didn't happen a lot. That did not happen a lot. Wayne Gretzky was not getting like targeted and picked on in games. Marty McSorley would literally put his fist down people's throat just to be there on the roster.
Yeah, and I saw something on Twitter. I think it was Dan Cirillo, who has some serious brain issues.
Yes.
With all the fights that he got in and all. We had Todd Fedoruk on. He talked about what a beating he took being an enforcer in the league. When you look at the humanity of it, you hate to take physicalness away from sports, but look, that's what we've been doing for the last 15, 20 years to try and save these guys' lives. CTE, all of those things. The barbaric nature of it, okay, look, we're guys. That's who we are. We watch it and watch two guys pummel each other. That's fun as long as you're not one of the guys. But, if you do go deeper into it look, where's Delorier going to be in 15 years after taking on? Like you saw his face on it was on Twitter. His face in pregame warm-ups on Sunday, and he's beat all the hell.
Oh, yeah.
And he tried to go with somebody on Sunday, but the other one didn't want to go. The guy that he fought on Saturday from the Rangers fought yesterday and got his ass kicked. I mean, he took 5 or 6 shots to the head in a row, totally clean, and went down on the ice. Is it going to take something like that before you say, look, you can't fight in hockey anymore? There's always two thoughts.
If I was a pro sports franchise, this is something I'd be focusing on at the combine and before any draft. I'll tell you what it is. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Washington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
They might just do it. The Washington Commanders may go with Drake May as their quarterback. And I just am like, do it. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Washington, don't think about it. Run up there with the name on the card and just do it. I can't believe the fast. Look, I like Drake May as a quarterback, as a college football fan. Like him. Number 2 pick in the draft. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you nuts? You should be able to trade back and get someone like Drake May. And if somebody else takes him beforehand, you say, okay, I'll take the haul of picks I got and do something with them. But it's going to be interesting to watch all these quarterbacks going early in this draft.
I can't imagine Washington wouldn't take a quarterback, right?
Right.
Jaden Daniels, maybe go that way.
Might.
I think I'd go that way more than a Drake May.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting. But no matter what they're doing, like, okay, now you're grooming another quarterback. Now that's going to take years to go down the road, So, yes, so be it.
And you have a coach that doesn't what his offensive side of the ball acumen. Give him the rookie coach, please. Give Dan Quinn that guy, please. I'm feeling really good about this division. Giants heading into a little bit of a rebuild. They might go with a quarterback too. They probably go with a quarterback in the draft. I'm loving this. It just looks good. If I was heading to the combine and I was asked to run a NFL franchise, which I never would be asked to do, but if I was, there's one thing that I would absolutely be doing about every single candidate that potentially we would be drafting. I would be doing a deep dive of social media research on every single draftee, every single trade target, we've seen it with the A.J. Brown story. Social media has become, for some, a distraction, for some, a problem. And A.J. described it himself with Mike Sealski as something that he has bothered him, has derailed him, has caused him mental anguish, things like that. I would absolutely be doing a deep dive on social media. Now, Silvana took my class last year. I do this for my class, and I've already been doing my research for this year's class. I don't follow kids on social media, but I'm trying to get them hired so they can get jobs afterwards. I go on to social media and see if I can find them. And then I tell them, I put the stats up. I said, well, somebody in class here, I found 38 pictures with alcohol in them. I found somebody I found 4 bong pictures. And I put it up on a thing for the kids and go, this is dumb. This is dumb. You have to clean up your social media. If you're going to be applying for jobs and these kids are college kids and it's like social media doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to hire somebody for a multi-million-dollar job, now Gunn's checking his social media. He's going to go through. You going to try to do a cleanup before I look at yours?
Yeah, I got to get those Laramie Tunsil bong pictures off my social media. No, I'm kidding.
But I did it. I did it just as an exercise last year with my class. I said I found 83 pictures with alcohol. I found this many bong pictures. I found this many references. I found this many F-bombs. I found this many even slurs.
Yeah, it's not good.
A lot of times it was when they were in high school. But people don't clean it up. If I'm hiring somebody, if I'm at the NFL Combine and I got 30 people that I'm interviewing, I have my social media team. I have my researchers with my franchise. I want to know every single thing that's on somebody's social media because I want to know how important it is to them. How big is it to them? How much time are they worried about it? What are they doing? And more importantly, are they using good sense when it comes with it? And I think it's partially now what you got to do.
Well, I hope that I was never interviewed for a job and they looked back at what I did in high school. You know,
there wasn't an electronic fingerprint of ours.
No,
oh
there
my
wasn't,
gosh,
but if
I wouldn't want it either. I wouldn't want it either.
No. So, do you take that with a grain of salt when you're interviewing? Like, look here, when guys get drafted, whether it's the NBA, NFL, whatever, they go through a bunch of classes. And I was in a cab with a lady one time in Las Vegas when I was covering Summer League, and she was the big speaker to these rookies in the NBA about how to oversee their money.
Okay.
And these guys took like 2-hour classes every day while they were in Las Vegas about different things. So I assume once you're drafted or before you're drafted, there is probably a teacher that is also given to these rookies about how to try to handle social media, about what you should and shouldn't do. All of those things. Yeah, it's not, you don't just grab these guys. Like you put it out well, John. You don't just grab these guys and say, hey, you're a multimillionaire. Go out there and hit me some buckets, throw me some touchdowns, score me some goals. Like it doesn't happen that way. They are invested in these guys, and they take the proper measurements to make sure that their investment is along the lines of what they need.
I know that I have known security people who work for pro sports franchises that spend times leading up to the draft going and interviewing high school coaches, high school principals, college coaches, all kinds of people about stories that come up in research going, is this guy a bad guy? Is this guy a troublemaker? Is this guy? It's interesting to see how much now, but like Bob and I say, Gunn, it's different than you. What we did as kids doesn't have that electronic fingerprint.
Yeah, it's not with you for the rest of your life. Like you post on Twitter back in 2012, you don't think it's going to come back to haunt you in 2024. But
Right.
it can, because it doesn't really go anywhere. At the end of the day, like, as long as it's not egregious, though, like something that, no slurs, nothing like that, I can work with the kid. I can work with the draftee, right? Like Josh Allen every year has old tweets surface from way back in the day that were nothing like crossing the line, but
Questionable
things,
Yes,
right?
questionable.
And it's not going to deter me from drafting that kid, but I want to sit down and be like, hey, what were you thinking right here when you did this back in the day? And this is not you anymore, right?
Can I ask you this though? Is that if it's high school, I'm much more going, If it's college, I'm much more my ears are perked up and I'm a little concerned.
Sure.
If it's in college. I'm not worried about if it's something from when you were a sophomore in high school, junior in high school. I know what kind of an idiot I was. So I'm not going to say, well, this kid needed to know better. I mean, for God's sakes, I needed to know a lot better. Some of the hijinks we got into. But it's the idea that if it's college, I am concerned.
Yeah, because
it would be concerning.
in college, you have something to lose, right? You already have the responsibilities of being on a team, and you're kind of throwing them by the wayside to post stupid stuff online. At that point, it is kind of questionable, and I would rethink some things. But if the kid can play, I don't want to say I just want him going out there and scoring touchdowns and all that. But it's not going to be the end-all, be-all factor for me, as long as it's not crossing any sort of line that's just, way too far gone.
By the way, and so what I do is I say to the kids is I give them links to 3 sites. And I said, you could spend $20 or less and automatically have a social media deep dive history done. And this company will turn up to you. We found 17 questionable tweets. We found 19 questionable Instagram posts, and you can just delete them. You can scrub them away, and it tells you how to do it. And you don't have to spend more than $20 to do it. That I tell these kids, I'm like, there are businesses that are going to look at your social media, and they're not going to like what you did. And it might not be fair. It might not be fair.
Yeah, in
But
the real life,
right?
in real life, you don't have the arm of a Josh Allen, and it's going to override everything else, right?
Right.
If you want to be the next up-and-coming guy on radio, on TV, whatever, you're not going to get the same, leeway as professional athletes that are going to go out there, and that's the end-all, be-all. You're not getting the same kind of, turn the other way if you're just a normal person.
Yeah, and when you're talking college athletes, and I don't care what level, I bring you in to be a player in my program. There's going to be a meeting on day one about social media.
Absolutely.
You know, and we don't have to look at the biggest of colleges. We don't have to look at the LSUs and all those. You know, we can go Division III. Widener University, I'm calling my basketball team in, who just lost in the championship game on Saturday night, but should get an NCAA bid today. Anyway, I'm calling those 15 kids in. Yeah, you're Division III athletes, but guess what? You represent this school. And I don't want you doing anything mean on social media. I don't want you to get caught in any stupid pictures. You know, and that's probably a reminder once a week. So these kids going out into the real world, I'm talking athletes only, they should be pretty well versed going to their next jobs of you know, what's expected of them social media-wise.
Adam Ruzicka of the Coyotes this weekend, as Haley points out. A social media video appeared to show him with cocaine.
Who?
One of the players from the Coyotes, Adam Ruzicka.
Oh.
I believe is how his name is pronounced.
That's not a social media issue. That's a real life issue there.
And they are cutting ties with him. They're cutting ties with him right now and trying to void his contract and walk away from him. I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize how damaging it is. I would do such a deep dive on social media for this because I always laugh to the kids too. I go, I'm finding this, and I am not some, you know, internet assassin that understands all the ins and outs about how to find people and everything. If I'm finding all this stuff, I don't know what else you could have on your fake accounts. If somebody's smart enough to be able to do that. 9 a.m. hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. For details, go to Bagster.com. All right, big news out of the NFL on Friday. Talk about the Friday news dump. The salary cap is going up by $31 million for next year. That's an unbelievable jump, and it is around 2% above projections of growth. I think the salary cap's going up, 13% or something. It's around 2% more than was projected to be. But the revenues for the NFL were just wild this year. So you got $31 million added to the cap. Now, Howie already works this into all his projections, and he's working off of a number. He probably only ended up with another $1.5 million, $2 million to work with than what he expected. But with $31 million available, it brings to mind, what is the strategy? You got that extra cash. Is this the year for extensions? And that to be the priority. You're going to do both. You're going to plug holes with a spending spree. You're going to go and you're going to plug some holes. You're going to buy some contracts up, get some guys in here. And you're going to extend some people. But what should be the priority for the 2024 Eagles? If one thing takes precedence, is it locking down Devontae Smith, Dickerson, being able to get those contracts done, being able to make sure that you don't do anything that's going to screw up those guys? Or is it plugging holes via free agency with a little extra money? What's the number one?
I'm going with the known commodity. I know that Devontae Smith is a really good wide receiver in this league and can be one of the best ones there. I'm locking him up. As far as Landon Dickerson, same thing. Yeah, I'm locking him up to a good deal.
And it's a little early, too, so you're getting them in.
Yeah, so you might get an even better. But, yeah, that's my first priority. I'd rather go with the knowns. I know Devontae Smith is a starter on this team. I know that Landon Dickerson, and they're both good starters on this team. Yeah, I'm taking care of that. The plug-and-play, free agent stuff, God, that makes me sick to my stomach just because of the plug-and-play type of free agents that they usually get.
You understand how it's helped them, though, the 2 years they've gone to the Super Bowl.
God, one of my topics is you did it once, do it again.
Right.
And that's go out and get running backs. I was sitting in this very seat with Anthony sitting over in the seat that you're in when it came across the wire that in our alerts rather, that they signed Jay Ajayi at 7-1. And we both started screaming, saying, oh, my God, they're going to win the Super Bowl. Both of us screaming. Can't believe they did this. They shored up a position that they have, lacked for so long. Get back to that. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And that's something we should go deeper into too, is that you need running backs. You you need to address that, and you did it in other seasons. You had guys in there. I just am looking at it saying, to me, I want to make sure that we lock guys down cheaply and affordably as the first option for spending the extra windfall that you got.
I'm right there with you. Name any star wide receiver in the league right now. Guess what? They're coming up for a contract extension. Let's get Devontae Smith signed first. Let's reset the market with him before it goes to an astronomical number with a CeeDee Lamb or a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase. Let's get Devontae Smith signed first, and that extra $1.5 million that we're talking about, just throw that on Hassan Reddick's extension and just get that done with too, and keep the guys that we know can play here in Philadelphia, and then build a roster from that through the draft, and whatever spare cash you have after that, get the plug-and-play guys.
Would you prioritize Reddick or would you prioritize Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith. I got into it with Ray Dunn a couple weekends ago. He wanted Hassan
Ray
Reddick.
Dunn is very confrontational, isn't he? He's just that confrontational guy.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's Devontae Smith for me for that reason, right? He's still in the prime of his career, probably hasn't even hit it yet. He's a homegrown kid drafted in the Eagles. I want him here as long as possible, right? Go out there and get him on a cheap, relatively cheap deal before everybody else gets signed.
Yeah, I'm going. If you had to say either or, I'm going Devontae Smith. Younger, probably has more
tread on the tire.
Game. Yeah, more tread on the tires. But if you break down each game, probably has more of a hand in the game of how you're going to try to win games as the Philadelphia Eagles than a Hassan Reddick might. With that being said, I still want Hassan Reddick back here too.
But it's okay if I put to you Landon Dickerson and Hassan Reddick.
I would go Hassan Reddick right now because I don't think Landon Dickerson's going anywhere, right? And he's cheaper and it's easier to figure out.
But you can
I think
get
you
that
figure that out second after you get your star defensive end, outside linebacker signed.
So you guys do you both go Smith, Reddick, Dickerson?
Yeah.
Because
that's a good point. Dickerson you can still hold off on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to get – the thing is I want to lock down Dickerson at a deal like you got Jordan Mailata at, where you get a guy, even though Jordan Mailata was the 7th rounder, looking to make money, that you had to up his deal. I don't know. Locking down one of the guys you think is going to be one of the stalwarts moving forward to your offensive line, and they absolutely would save significant
It's a good
cash.
point because you want continuity there with the unquestionable future of Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson.
And Jalen Hurts is there.
Exactly. You want some key pieces on the offensive line that are going to stay there.
I'm also the guy, though, that would say, we love you, Jason Kelce. You are a freaking legend in this town. But I'd be fine with saying $15 million off the books. I would be fine with it. I'm not going to – the day he retires, it's going to be me up in my feelings about him being gone. It's not going to be me going, oh, my God, the Eagles' offensive line is about to fall apart. Because honestly, too, and if people tell me about leadership, I'm going to say, well, the leadership really didn't do a damn thing this year. That locker room, that team, as A.J. Brown in his own words, we weren't good enough, and we couldn't pull ourselves out of the nosedive. As you know, you heard that the players just saying we weren't good enough. Lane Johnson, the 49ers exposed us, and then we didn't have a plan. We never came up with a plan to be able to counter that and find a way to get back on our feet. And then dissension begins, and guys like as Troy Aikman, I've never seen a team, they look so disinterested on both sides of the ball in a 3-0 playoff game. It broke my heart. I never thought I'd see that. On a team that has Kelce, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, I never thought I'd hear an analyst who is a Hall of Fame player himself say, I've never seen such a disinterested team.
Sounds like you're saying leadership is overrated.
Well, could be. Well, how about this? It absolutely was the reference to this team it was. It absolutely was. Because the leadership didn't mean a damn thing. Now, to have a leader, though, as Bob will like to point out, you have to have followers. And maybe they have some guys in the locker room who weren't willing to follow and weren't listening well enough and weren't assimilating well enough. And that could very well be the case. That could very well be a big part of it. And if that is, I have concerns moving forward about how this roster is put together. But $31 million, that's not bad.
No.
That's a
No,
good
but
spend of
every
money.
team gets it, so it's all
Oh,
evened
no,
out.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
But some teams are going to spend it poorly.
sure.
some of
Eagles
them
might
just-
be one of those teams. Who knows?
That's one thing I don't. If you're talking about the boogeyman issues that could hurt your team, that's one I'm sort of not expecting. That it would be the Eagles spend their money poorly.
No, they're
don't-
usually pretty good at that.
Yeah,
Like Howie's really good at money.
he's unbelievable.
Yeah,
He's unbelievable.
It's never been a concern. Money has never been a concern. So, yeah, we have to put that to the side. All right, money's no concern. Great. Good job, Howie. There, I will never be down on him because I've never seen anything that's hurt this team money-wise.
And Jeffrey Lurie is a big part of that, as we point out. We've pointed out before. He's a huge part of that. Is that you have to have an owner who's willing to give you the cash up front to get these guys to rework their deals so then you can spread that money out and help the salary cap space, create salary cap space. So you have to have an owner that says, yeah, I'll write you a $40 million check.
It's funny. Yeah, so what your biggest paid player is probably somebody you want to protect and make shine, and that's Jalen Hurts. So, yes, bring back the wide receiver. Make sure you sign offensive linemen. Make sure you draft offensive linemen. But if you really had to put money somewhere, it should be on the other side of the ball where you are just very bare and you have a lot of needs. So this offseason is going to be very interesting.
How about this one for you, though, as I just put this into perspective. The salary cap this year is $255.4 million. That's an immense amount of money. $250 million is your salary cap. But as I brought onto the show last week, every NFL team got $402 million just from the national TV broadcast deals. So right there, each team is already $146 million or $47 million ahead there, where they can pay their salary cap just out of that, the TV deals. And then if they had to pay all their staff, all their coaches, all the things, that out of the national TV deal, they can pay all the salaries to their employees. They can pay all the salaries to their players. They can do, and then all the other money that the NFL owners reap all comes in there. So,
yeah, there's money in football, John.
if you're smart, that's
a lot of it.
Good observation on your part there, Bobby.
Yeah.
Good observation.
Yep, lots and lots of it.
There's a ton of cash to be had. Get on out there. Identity in the 76ers? Do they have one? We'll talk about it next. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I retweeted and quote tweeted a video that was put out. Social media's popped up this morning, and it's pretty funny. There was let's just say Stephen A. Smith going after Zion Williamson about his weight again. And the New Orleans Pelicans decided to go postal on Stephen A. Smith. So you can go and you can watch it. They put together a highlight film of Stephen A. Smith shooting a basketball, throwing out the first pitch at the Yankees game, trying to play basketball, and it is a brutal takedown. But it will make you chuckle. Knowing Stephen a little bit, I know that it will not in any way cause him to lose any sleep. He will laugh about it. He will like the attention. But it is a brutal takedown by a sports franchise to be like, oh, you're picking on one of our players? Let's pick on you a little bit. It was really, I think it's a very funny bit.
Yeah, good on him.
And he loves the attention. So
no doubt.
He's gonna be like, yeah, hey, people are making fun of you, Stephen A. And he's like, yeah. He's going, cha-ching. Count up the money. Hey, Fanatic Mondays are presented by Pierce Phelps Bryant Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors. Visit nopaybryant.com and get flexible spending options on a new heating and cooling system for your home. Make sure you do that. The identity of the Sixers, Bob, is so tied up in Joel Embiid. And I find myself just sagging. I wanted to be excited yesterday to watch a 12:30 game on a Sunday afternoon. That's perfect. When it's cold outside and it's crappy, that's wonderful to me. But I find my enthusiasm sagging because to me so much of the Sixers is just Joel Embiid.
It is. And there's really no identity right now. And then, like I was talking about earlier, they're not very good defending. If you watch, you see how many layups and dunks the other team gets so often. And if it's not that, it's wide open shots. Their real only defense right now is hoping other teams miss or take bad shots. They give up way too many offensive rebounds, giving teams multiple possessions when they're not good at that. They don't get back on defense very well, which is another, bad point. So when you lay all that out, you say, okay, well, how can they win games without Joel Embiid? They have to outscore other teams. Well, you can't do that when Tobias Harris is averaging 13 points a game over his last 7. When Buddy Hield gets here, it's great. Now all of a sudden he hasn't scored over 15 points in his last 3 games. When you're asking probably Tyrese Maxey to do way too much, it's just not a good remedy. So I'm like, all right, what's your identification? I go back to when I was covering the Sixers, and we were at a preseason game up in Massachusetts. I think it was at the University of Massachusetts. And I'm watching like the third team, both teams out there in the fourth quarter, and it's a preseason game, ho-hum. But you watch Boston, they're just running sets, and they're running good things. And granted, none of the guys on the court were going to be NBA players, but they were still just running good things. There's an identity there. You know who they are. They're always going to have that identity. I can't find one right yet with the Sixers. Now, there's different reasons for it, the biggest being Joel Embiid. But also now you're playing a lot of different guys, a Kyle Lowry, a Buddy Hield, a campaign that weren't even here at the beginning of the year, and you have a new head coach. Right now, they are just without identity. I don't think they really know who they are, how they are supposed to win, what they can do to pull out some wins in these games. They beat Cleveland the other night, yeah, but Donovan Mitchell was pulled before the game because of sickness. That's a huge loss for Cleveland. So I just don't know what their identity is now, and until they can find something without Joel Embiid, it's just in my head that they're going to be fighting in a play-in tournament game.
Identity, though, I expect – how about this? I expect their identity, Bob, to be built around fight. And I don't see the fight. Because I've always heard, Hubie Brown yesterday was really dwelling on the fact that where Milwaukee was getting all the second chances when they miss, Hubie kept pointing out, Sixers are one and done.
Yeah.
They're coming down, it's one and done. And then he said in the third quarter at one point, he goes, rebounding, I used to say to the guys, a lot of it is a want to do it.
Sure. Yeah,
He says I see a lot of flat-footed guys out there.
Yeah, one of the
I think it
best
was this guy.
rebounders this city's ever seen is Charles Barkley. All 6'4.5" of them. You know, it's not so much you have to be the biggest guy to get rebounds. It's a one for the basketball, reading where the basketball's going and going after it. No, you don't see a lot of that. And then to give – see, the way that – another identity thing here is the way that they're built right now, and it's similar to the Flyers, like I brought up earlier, you have little room for error. Like, you can't have hollow possessions. You have to get good shots almost every time down. You can't allow backdoor cuts or two-pass possessions that lead to a dunk and a layup a lot, which they are doing, because you're not good enough to overcome them. So what's your identity? How do you play the game without Joel Embiid in order to win? I don't know if there's a solid answer right there for Nick Nurse and company right now. I really don't. Their three-point shooting yesterday was bad, and Milwaukee's was really good. The fact that Milwaukee got a ball out of a basket, threw it the length of the court, and scored with 0.1 second to go in a half, that's horrible. I mean, that's horrible. I just don't know what their identity is right now, and a lot of it has to do because of moving pieces, and, of course, the biggest piece missing.
What my question to you would be in regards to that to figure it out is, without Embiid, what should be the consistent thing that they're good at?
Yeah, find something. Is it defense? Well, they really don't have that. And DeAnthony Melton's probably your best perimeter defender. He's been hurt an awful lot. Nick Batum is probably definitely a better defender when he has somebody like Joel Embiid in there. They all are, right? They're all better defenders. You can take chances with a Joel Embiid back there, maybe reaching in a passing lane or looking to get a strip, get beat, and then boom, there's your rim protector. You don't get hurt that much. If you do that now, Paul Reed's standing there watching and they're dunking and laying the ball in. Paul Reed doesn't know how to rotate yet defensively. His rotations are horrible. He's double-teaming the wrong person. It's just not good. So that's not your identity. Is your identity, we're a really good three-point shooting team, so we're going to outscore other teams? Well, when you don't have an inside presence, what can other teams do to you? Stand out on the perimeter and take away your three-point shooting. So there's nothing rock solid identity-wise with this team right now. Kyle Lowry's going to try to bring them one. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it.
If you're counting on a guy you just picked up off the street to sort of be your identity, then the roster was put together.
Well, look at three of their first top 8-9 players right now are new players. Cam Payne, Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield. They're all new, right? So, they're in your rotation. Here they are. Go get them. Yeah, it's an oddity. Now, I'm watching the game yesterday. Kyle Lowry did one. There was one possession where it was there's the value of a Kyle Lowry. And it's Maxey had the ball, threw it on a wing. He gave it back to him, Lowry did. And Lowry was screaming at him, no, get here, do this. And you saw him actually, okay, backed up. They set a high screen. He came off of it, boom, hit an open jump shot. That's the value of Kyle Lowry. But, here's a guy that's probably not going to play every game, that ideally is only going to give you, say, 15 minutes a game. So I don't know how much you can rely on that either. There's just no identity right now with this Sixers team.
I
understand why. For all the reasons that I laid out. Yeah.
But should one guy sink? No, they've had other injuries. So I can't just say one guy. But should one key player being out affect you in this way?
Well, then it's other key players also. Kyle Lowry is now a key player, just brought in. Buddy Hield is a key player, just brought in. Cam Payne, I think they want him to be the backup point guard. All right, that's a major player, just brought in. There's new head coach, just brought in. So it's just all these moving pieces that is unsolidified because the guy you went through offensively and defensively isn't on the floor.
We look at this Phillies roster in spring training and start to think about it. And honestly, I was looking at it yesterday and I'm saying, I was trying to compare. Nerd Boy was just bored watching some of the action. Spring training baseball doesn't get me glued to the TV. The Sixers game was boring. So I'm going through some things and I'm saying, do the Phillies have the best young roster in town? Young roster. Flyers, I think some people would go, the Flyers are young, but the Flyers do have some key guys that are more veteran, some key guys that are keeping things going, that are more veteran presences. But the Phillies roster has a chance to be good for quite a while. I mean, if you're just looking do you think Bohm's a long-term answer for this franchise? Stott, a Rojas down the line, there's very few guys. The only one I could look at where I'm like, succession plan is needed is catcher. And it's not just because I don't think JT Realmuto is going to fall off a cliff, but he has had declining statistics now for 4 years going, and catcher takes your wear and tear on you so much. And the the Phillies have nowhere to park him. There's nowhere to park him. There's no succession plan to go, he could be your first baseman. No. Your first baseman is sealed for years to come. He can be your DH. No, he can't. That's the only position where I look at that the Phillies aren't they could be set with a lot of this team where a generation of Philadelphia fans could grow up with a unit playing together for a long time. Where they just relate to the players and get to know the players, the Harpers, the Stotts, the Bohms, and just have them around. The Wheelers, the Nolas. And I firmly expect the Wheeler deal will get done and that this team will have a familiarity to it that maybe we're not used to for any of our franchises.
Yeah, they could be. They could be there for a while. You have the long-term contract with Harper, Schwarber, and Castellanos, signed those contracts.
Schwarber,
and those
2
are
more
your,
years.
Yeah,
this year, next year.
Those are your older guys. And then, the plethora of younger guys that you brought up. Yeah, and then you look into the bullpen. If you're going to take it even a little bit further, I mean, Mick Abel pitches you good innings yesterday. Of course, Kerkering, and they have some other young arms that they're hoping can come up and be something. You didn't mention Brad Marsh either. He's only Brandon Marsh. He's only 25.
No, absolutely, no question.
That's another one.
I look at Crawford or Rojas being the answer there, but maybe Marsh moves over.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just have this young. Yeah, that's a good point. They probably are. The Flyers probably want to get there.
The Flyers will get there.
Yeah, they have a couple of older guys that maybe they'll sell off, but they're not even older guys. I mean, well, they're not prominent on this team, older guys, I don't think. I think your core is like, the Konechny's and the Tippett's and the Laughtons and stuff like that.
And when you're talking about mid-20s, late 20s, it's not even
No, that's okay. Yeah, players
yet.
are playing till 34, 30, effectively, pretty much now.
But to me, I'm looking at what Dave Dombrowski has done. And by the way, the previous administration set him up nicely because Dave Dombrowski had nothing to do with Bohm being here, Stott being here, and some of these other young talents. But to me, I look at what Dave's done, and he's created a foundation that, like if you have a kid who's an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and Brendan, you were a high school kid, you were a middle school kid during the Phillies.
Yeah, the golden era. That's what this team's reminding me of. You have your corner pieces everywhere you look. Now, there's going to be some switches at some point with a Kyle Schwarber or Castellanos, but we saw that back in the day with Jason Worth being here for a minute and then going somewhere else, Raul Ibanez. But there's always going to be the pieces that move. But if you can have the foundation with a Stott, a Bohm, a Harper, a Turner, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, it's very, very reminiscent of those World Series teams back in the day. And hopefully it ends up with at least one. If not two, if not three.
I mean, it will be fun if they're even really knocking on the door like they have been. There's an era of sustained success that could happen for this franchise.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that the owner is willing to spend. And he's willing to go out there and pursue anybody for this team. And if the bank's packed, then players around the league are like, I want to be a part of it. I can tell you, I said it again. Talking to Braves players before Game 4 in 2022. And after that Game 3 Friday game with Spencer Strider. And guys that I know on the team coming up to me and going, your people are idiots. This place is a zoo. It's a madhouse. And they were saying it with the utmost respect. Like, oh my gosh. Jeff Francoeur said it on this show. Damn, that place is wild. It's not recreated in other stadiums. And these are broadcasters that are associated with teams saying it, that this can be a special place. Merrifield, wanting to be here. Hearing him talk about it. I want a chance to win. I had opportunities, had a chance to win. I want to be here. That to me is just so awesome to hear.
Yeah, and you could hear Blake Snell or Montgomery saying that in the next couple of days.
I don't think it's going to be Montgomery. I don't think it is. Could Blake Snell be? I mean, if they added Blake Snell, I absolutely would say Phillies are winning the division. Period.
You'd go that far?
Yes,
I don't know if I'd go that far with the Blake Snell, but I would say they're in a better position than Atlanta in the postseason.
Brendan, I'm close to saying I'm not going to play again Johnny Big Balls right now. I'm this close from our YouTube audience, they can see it, to saying the Phillies are going to win the division.
I need to see it before I can go that far. Yeah, we have the better postseason roster than Atlanta the past 2 seasons, but I mean the division race in the regular season, that's a steep mountain to climb. You got to make up double-digit games the past 2 years.
Do you like the? Would you like the Braves rotation or the Phillies rotation?
In the regular season,
what do you think?
Maybe Atlanta, but not in the postseason. Like in the postseason, if you get a Snell and you're running out there, Wheeler, Nola, Snell, and Ranger Suarez, then I'm taking the Phillies in a series all day. But changing from a 10-game, what did they win the division by? 14 games or something last year? That's a huge, you got to get that down. I don't know if you can do that.
If I said to you Spencer Strider, Zach Wheeler.
Marginally Strider.
Really? I'm going razor-thin Wheeler.
Yeah, they're about even.
I think that's okay. Let's call it an even.
Yeah.
Let's call it a push.
So then you go Fried,
Max
Nola.
Fried, Nola. I think they're a push. Like, to me, they're a push. I don't. Where do you go?
I might go Fried.
You may go Fried.
Yeah.
Are you going slight edge to Fried?
Yeah.
Okay.
So therefore, it's even.
It's funny because I'm looking at it differently. I'm looking at postseason and regular season.
No, I mean but I'm talking about winning the division. Charlie Morton's their third starter. Charlie Morton or Ranger Suarez.
Suarez.
I'm taking Suarez also.
And
right
especially
now.
Blake Snell in that situation Bob brought up.
So right now, after 3, I think it's very even. Your top 3 starters, it's very even. Chris Sale, now he's an older player.
It's a wild card right there.
It's a wild card. He has the potential to be one of those major swing guys.
What?
Like he is right, exactly. Chris Sale.
You know a lot about the Braves, John.
Chris Sale has the potential to be one of those guys. They could hit it big on the Chris Sale. Or Chris Sale could end up on the DL 3 times.
The thing with Chris Sale that scares me a little bit is he's going to toughen up that locker room a little bit too. Like that Braves team was baby bottom soft the past 2 postseasons, just folding under pressure. If Chris Sale comes in there with the attitude that he has and gives him a little bit of to him, that's what scares me more than what he can do on the mound.
Okay, so I mean, like he's there now. I don't think we're thrilled with the Phillies rotation past the top 3. I don't think we're thrilled. But you give me Blake Snell. If Blake Snell is in here, he wouldn't be. By the way, he would bump Ranger down.
Yeah.
And then Ranger, absolutely, I would feel confident that the Phillies are going to get out of, because I think Chris Sale will have bumps in the road, injury-wise, things like that. I would feel better about the Phillies' top 4. I mean, and then you get Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder's a 5 ERA pitcher. He's their 5th starter. Christopher Sanchez last year pitched way better than that.
Taijuan Walker would be 5 in that situation, you'd think. Like just
God,
based on money.
We forget that he won. What he won 15 last year.
Was he their leading wins?
He had the most wins in the National League into August, not just the Phillies.
Okay, so I mean, I like the Phillies rotation with the Braves. I really do. I mean, we just did that exercise there, and if you added a Blake Snell, the Phillies rotation's better, and the Phillies lineup, if they do have Schwarber cleanup, I don't know why anybody would think the Phillies lineup can't at least be in the ballpark with the Braves. Braves have immense power, great power, but the Phillies could run around the base paths on people and really disrupt things.
And the Phillies' power is good, too. I mean, last year was the first time ever they had 6 guys with 20 or more homers.
They're great balance. Yes.
You know,
they didn't have the 50, the 40.
Well, you had a 47.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So, and Harper wasn't there. We saw his power surge. Remember, we were wondering if he was going to hit 12 or more home runs. I think we put the number 12 and a half. He wound up with like 19. You know, so, and missing all the time that he missed. So you could have 2 35 to 45 home run hitters in this lineup, if you count Harper there with Schwarber.
Do you think Bohm takes a step from like a high teens, 20 to 25 this year? I would hope.
Yeah, he's
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, well, last year he said, they said, would you put on so much muscle? He's like, no, I'm just still growing. Like, he's a young kid. He's still growing. We talk about it in college, how, guys go from freshman year to junior year. They're different people. That 20 to 23 or 20 to 25, that's a different person. So he might just be getting physically stronger all the time, and therefore, maybe you will see some more home runs out of him.
Did you? You heard it yesterday on the Sixers broadcast. Hubie talking about how Giannis came into the league, and now how big he is.
Yeah.
And how Giannis used to shy away a little bit from physical contact, and now he initiates it because he's the bigger guy. He doesn't care anymore.
Oh, go look at what Joel Embiid looked like when he first came into the league, and so many of those guys, they just that's what it is. And plus, you have better, obviously, training facilities in order to do that. But yeah, I think Alec Boehm could be a 25 home run guy.
This lineup, it changes everything. Trey Turner, how many we count on for Turner?
25.
25? You count on 25 from Turner. You count on 40 from Harper in a full season?
Full season healthy, full off-season healthy
40.
too. Yeah,
Okay.
I think he could have an MVP caliber season.
25 for Boehm. I'm going to go pencil in 40 for Schwarber. 40.
That's safe. But I've never seen a guy hit 40 in back-to-back seasons. Now it's going to happen 3 seasons in a row. I hope so. I expect it to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if something, offsets that a little bit because it never
30
has
to 35.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
As long as he doesn't tweak it. This offense has power. I'm this close, Gunner. I'm this close to saying
it's
all
hard.
chips on the table.
Just look at Vegas. There's a 10-game separation between the two teams, and the Phillies are projected to win 92 games.
I think they're basing that a lot on last year and the year before.
Atlanta, for my money, is the best team in baseball in the regular season. They're not the same when October rolls around, but in the regular season, they're the best team. And I have to see the Phillies, this group, win a division before I can say they can go out there and overtake the best team in baseball.
Stott had you 15 home runs last year. I didn't realize that's how many he
I
had.
love that. Now, if he's batting leadoff.
Yeah, that's, and they give him off days. He only had 585 at bats, where normally a guy, he's going to be in the 7+.
Marsh, what did Marsh give you? 15? 14?
He had that many.
I don't know if he had that many. I think if Marsh was playing regular, if Marsh gets 120, 125 games, I think he could easily could end up with like 12, 15.
He had 12 last year.
12.
Yeah,
okay.
and 400 at bats.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
The power can be there.
Oh, and Rojas, man, he's all swolled up. Put one out in the dead center, hit off the wall for a triple on Saturday. Are you kidding me?
I like it.
I see 25, 30 out of him at one point.
Well, now you're really sucking.
We might win 162 games if that's the case.
Okay, we end today where we started, and it was the sort of the referendum again on the topic of the weekend. A.J. Brown calls into sports radio, opposing station, and shares his thoughts on stories that he believes are being perpetrated against him in sports radio. And to me, again, I think it's a really crappy place where we've landed. I really do. To me, it's the idea that we should be in an era where we are not, I don't think, where we create the news based on hot takes and what we believe and like hunches and rumors and everything and what we talked about last week with Craig Carton. It's all pretty surreal to me. But again, though, with an open mic at his advantage, A.J. Brown explained it all. He put an end to all the bull stuff. He did. He put an end to it because he explained everything perfectly about that. And I think he also showed self-awareness, and I think he also showed accountability. We weren't good enough. We didn't play well enough. He took it on. He didn't blame the coaches. He tried to not blame the coaches. I mean, to me, I had a ton of respect for it. But I think it's a crazy time that we live in, Bob, and I wanted to give you the last word on this as far as the idea that this is where we've come to now.
Yeah, in this day and age, it doesn't roll off the back. It's not a society where anybody can say something and you don't have a reaction to it. That's how this all got started, with some crazy takes and his need to feel to answer it, and then the back and forth of that. Yeah, it's strange, and everything sucked last year. So you're not going to have an off season of greatness, right?
Right.
Like I said 1,000 times, you can point your fingers anywhere to the Eagles, and you're right. That's what was wrong. So it's going to be an off season of this. The quieter you keep, probably the better the offseason's going to be if you're an Eagles team. But you're going to have people put hot takes out there, and it's going to happen all offseason long. And maybe A.J. Brown from this is like, you know what? I'm just done with it. I'm not answering whoever says I should be traded or whoever says this and that. In the end, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is how you play and the teammates that you're with. And if they know what you're all about, what difference does it make if some hot take, podcast, radio, whatever guy comes out and says something? It just doesn't.
And I would suggest to AJ, in all honesty, and I'm saying this as someone in our industry, I consider what we do to be entertainment. And hopefully you're entertained each day. Hopefully it's like a conversation that you would have with your buddies. Bob always talks about going to lunch with the guys, and I will tell you that that's probably 20, 30% of Bob's show prep on any given day. Lunch with his fellas, because that's what this format is. It's what it is. I don't consider myself a reporter. I don't consider myself a journalist, because I have too much respect for the people who do it for a living. But if people preferred this approach, the more responsible approach and everything, I think people show sometimes, hey, we go for the shiny, crazy, controversial thing. But it was an interesting discussion, and I appreciate you all being here for it. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, the Davis CPA Group. Great job, Ron Davis and his team. And make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR, because cancer research saves lives. We will look forward to having you join us tomorrow at 6. But remember, shows live from the Combine with Connor and Tom. We will be keeping you up to date on the Scouting Combine all week long, right after the best show ever. Plus, you also can hang out with Andrew Salchunas and the best show ever all today. Andrew's back. Hang out with him.